All right, it is 2 o'clock on August the 1st, 2024. Mr. Langford's going to lead us in a prayer, and Miss Langford's going to lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, greater Creator of the universe, the great I am. It's such a privilege that we have an opportunity to bow ourselves before Thee, and knowing that You're in charge of the whole world and the whole universe, and You created it all for our sake, on our behalf, so that we could have eternal life with Thee one day and live forever in heaven. And we pray, Father, that we'll live each and every day so that we can accomplish that goal. We're very undeserving of all that You provided for us. We'll never be deserving of it, but we know through Your mercy, through Your grace, that You'll give us an opportunity to be found righteous in Thy sight, and to answer before You on Judgment Day, and here, hopefully, enter in, Thou good and faithful servant. Thank You for Your Son, Jesus Christ, gave His life on the cross of Calvary, the most cruel death known to mankind, that He could be crucified so that we could have forgiveness of sin and eternal life. We ask, Father, that You be with us now as we conduct the business that's been set before us. As we go through this budget process, we just pray, Father, that we'll study the issues, that we'll have an open mind and do the right things and do what's best for the county, not in our personal agenda. We just pray, Father, that You'll help us in our decisions, guide us in the right direction, be with our country as we live life here on earth. Sometimes it becomes a struggle, but we know, Father, You'll pick us up when we fall. Go with us now, continue to bless, be with each and every one of us. In Christ's precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
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 Address the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, I'd like to welcome everybody to this budget workshop. Do we have a motion? Do we have any agenda changes?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any agenda changes.
All right.
I had told y'all I wouldn't be here today,
Right.
but I am able to be here, but I'm going to have to leave at about 4:45, so I just wanted to let you know that ahead of
All right,
time.
well, we're glad you
And
can
also
be here.
wanted to let you know, if you didn't see it on TV 20 today, they had an article about the dismissing of the ethics claim. So
About the what?
dismissing of the ethics claim that was brought against me and my family,
Okay.
by Mr. Jordan, and that was just on TV 20 today.
All right. Yeah,
Pull your mic down.
Put your mic down, we can hear you a little bit better, but thank you, thank you. Glad to hear that, glad to hear that. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right. Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Are we gonna work right down the list and start off with the sheriff's department? Mr. Newton? Or do we have a different way of approaching it today?
If I could, real quick, just a short update from the last workshop.
All right,
It's on page 3 of your handout. In that, you'll see reflected, $125,000 decrease in the transfer to the road department. A decrease in general of $30,218, which was the extension office salary correction. The $500 increase to the Bell Library, and the $5,408 decrease in chamber. And then in the road department, you've got a decrease of $75,000 for the bucket truck and $50,000 for the delayed purchase of a pickup. And with that, we can continue.
okay. All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. So
We do have animal control and library here. I don't know if we would want to go ahead and address theirs, so it would be fairly quick.
all right. We can go and do, animal control first.
You're gonna find it page 52 of your book, page 6 in your handout.
As you look at this budget, which is on, page 52, you'll see that we have and I spoke about this when I gave the state of the county to the, commission about the number of animals that they are handling and, the need for a new vehicle. So, their budget is actually a little less until you put the, vehicle in there. We have $40,000 budgeted for that particular piece of equipment, and that brings our total budget to $257,172.
How old
Miss-
is the vehicle now?
Miss Erica, can you comment on the age of the vehicles that you have?
The one that we want to replace is, I'm sorry, Erica, Supervisor, Animal Control. The one we want to replace is, I think, 2007. The one I drive is 2017, and then we have a newer one in 2020, which that's not a question. The main reason is we need something with a closed tab. We catch a lot of grief from the rescues, and we transport every week to US for surgery. That's 8 or 10 dogs sometimes, and a lot of times they're in the open back of the truck. I know it's possible with SUV because I've done it every year with Miss Smith traveling. For SUV, we cram 30 animals in the back with crates. Another reason, we pick up dog food every 2 weeks in Ocala on Sundays, and sometimes it's pouring rain. They're open, busted bags. You know, we get odds and ends, but I mean, it'd be helpful to have the dogs in AC. You know, we could take off the seat. However, I mean, with the enclosed, some kind of enclosure. I mean, I don't really care what it is, SUV of some type.
The 2007, the one you're replacing, where will that truck go?
I'm not 100% sure. It was at the road department at one time. It may go back there. We kind of flip-flop that truck over the past couple of years, so.
Is it mechanically sound?
Hmm.
Huh?
Not very well. And I know the rear end's going out. I mean, we keep it maintained. I mean, it's probably just a matter of time.
I think the main thing you need is something enclosed, you're saying, to do transport and also for feed.
We've done 17 dogs last week on the back of the Dodge and 3-day dog box to Orlando. So, I mean, it's something we do every week.
Are you wanting something like a Suburban, or are you wanting a pickup truck with a cab over the back of it, or?
It's something possibly with AC in the back that will have crates, probably 6-type code in there.
So probably a van or something, or you're not sure?
I mean, it's something that has AC.
There are several different options that they use for animal control, and that's one of the things we're just gonna have to explore and
Yeah, I mean,
spec out. So if the
nothing in a
vehicle's
hurry,
funded, then
anything
we'll
they can-
explore that and spec it out and bring that back to you at that time.
How many miles does the 2007 have?
over 200,000. I do know that.
Okay.
I don't know the exact number,
But that's the brown one.
the brown one. yeah.
That truck originally started out, I think it was Mr. Perez's truck in fire. When I came to work, it was a truck I drove for a while. Then it went to the road department for a while, and then they were in need, so we transferred it there. And it's getting to where there's a lot of maintenance that has to be done on it. If it is driven, I'm not saying it can't be used, but it probably more needs to be used to where you drive it to a piece of equipment, you get out of it, you drive the equipment all day, then you get in it and drive it back. It's not something that you can continue to drive.
It's what I call a farm truck.
Yeah.
You drive it around the farm, but you don't ever take it
Right.
off the farm.
That's what it's, I mean, it'll be good for that, but it's not good for something, you know, and a lot of times and I'm not saying we need one there, but that's kind of like what we do with some of the vehicles that wind up, for instance, at Hart Springs as a maintenance vehicle to just stay within the park, to go site to site and work on something. It's not something you drive a lot or you're getting out on the road with, but it still can provide some service, but it can't provide the type of service that they need on a daily basis.
So you, it looks like you reduced the personnel services by 20,000
Mhm.
and you wanting 40,000 for the vehicle. That's why we ended up at 257. Is that
Yes,
right?
you got about a $23,000 increase.
Okay.
in your budget.
And everything else looks like it stayed the same, all your line items? I'm looking at it right now, it stayed the same
We
basically.
did stay the same. I mean, they may change, and things are increasing
Oh.
a lot,
One thing changed, but that's,
yeah.
Is the facility still adequate for what we've got, or we just run out of space all the time?
No, we're not running out of space. I move them out pretty quick. I mean, I spend my life there, so,
Okay.
I mean, I get them in and out. As soon as they get in, I figure out where they're gonna go. There's some that stay for months and then, there's gonna be improvements within this few years that's gonna need to happen, but,
How long have you been with animal control, Erica?
I don't know, 14 years.
Okay, you do a great job. Thank you
Yeah.
for what you
Thank
do.
Yep, yeah, I do. Are we not replacing one truck from the road department? Aren't we getting a new truck in the road department?
Getting one new truck.
If
in
the
road
budget
department,
continues
we
to, yes.
Scratch the other truck.
Yeah, but I mean, the truck we're replacing, would it be,
No, it's in worse shape than the one she wants to get rid of. I mean, you're replacing trucks at the road department that's 24 and 26 years old. With 300, 400,000 miles on it.
So will we sell this truck here or just
No,
transfer?
I'm not
to the road
saying it can't
department?
go to the road department or somewhere like that and just be driven to like a road grader every day and then get on the road grader and grade all day and then drive it back. It's just, it's not a vehicle that you need to depend on to drive 100 miles a day when you're doing out service and doing work. And you definitely can't take it to Gainesville or Orlando because we don't trust it, so.
Erica, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Your number one issue is people being responsible for their pets. Am I not correct?
Mainly,
That's probably a large percentage of your work and your call.
overbreeding and not spaying and neutering.
Have you ever looked into some way to maybe get a handle on that a little better? I know some counties, I've looked into some other counties, you know, they do a chip process where you have to have your animal chipped and stuff like that for identification purposes.
Every animal that leaves my shelter is microchipped.
Do what now?
Every animal that leaves my shelter is microchipped.
Right.
So if they are reclaimed by their owner, then they're chipped. We'll have to hire a whole nother staff, what you're probably speaking of is licensing through rabies. So basically, you have to license with your county, like Alachua does. Dixie doesn't do it, Levy doesn't do it, we don't do it. It is required by law to have a rabies vaccine, but it is not required to be licensed within the county, which is a fee that people have to pay. And we enforce that every day. I enforce that hard.
So,
Just speaking
but,
of people
but,
that don't keep their animals up, basically is the main, it's not the main issue, but,
right.
you can see a record of citations we write. We write citations probably weekly.
The main thing is people's
Maybe
animals
this one-
getting on somebody else's property.
Yeah,
That's-
we give people benefit of the doubt, second time, no. And they usually listen, or they just give up their dogs.
But to me, that's a major issue. We're funding $257,000 because people won't be responsible for their pets. I have the same problem in my neighborhood. I can't have chickens on the yard. I can't do anything because dogs come kill them. It's been that way for 10 years. And everybody's solution is kill the dog, but I don't want to kill the dog. I just want people to keep the animal at home. That's all I ask
Well,
for.
if you know where the dog's coming from, then we can address the issue. But, there's gonna be people that don't know where the dogs are coming from,
Yeah.
or they don't know who their neighbor is, or they're not familiar with the area, and they move in here from down south or wherever, and they're new, but, we usually, if you complain, we take care of it. If there's an issue and you call, we take care of it. If it's getting the dog, if it's tracking the dog, if it's riding the neighborhood, trying to find out who the dog belongs to, once we find out who the dog belongs to, then, it's a lot easier, but, you're gonna have dogs coming in and out. We have farmers around the whole county that
Yeah.
they may take care of it their own way, but you never hear about it, so.
Don't get me wrong, you do a good job. Y'all do a good job. I've been down to your place. I've talked to you before. It just seems like the problem is responsibility of the pet owner. It's just won't
Yeah,
keep
that's
their
right.
animals at home. My personal feelings is if I've got an animal, I need to contain it to my property, and if I'm not capable of doing that, then I need to do something about it. Either fence my yard or donate the pet somewhere or do something to keep him from having all the issues and causing you all the problems.
Yeah, I agree, and it gets to that point. We just had a court case last month where she's enforced by the judge to contain in a fence. So, it's a process.
Yeah,
You
and
gotta
the
find out who
world,
owns the animal.
and society's changing. I grew up, I had a dog all my life. I got one now. And letting them run on the yard and stuff like that in the past was not a big issue. But today, it is a bigger issue. Cats, dogs, whatever it may be. You got more neighbors, you got different kinds of people and kind of stuff like that. But I just wish there was some way we could come up with a more responsible.
Maybe in the future licensing, but we would have to have our county, which has 19,000 people in it, license every animal they have and pay a fine.
Yeah,
And that would have, I'd have to hire 2 people to do that all day.
you still have enforcement, I guess.
No, we enforce ordinances every day. But you gotta know who owns the animal to be able to enforce it. If not, we'll find out. Or we'll get the animal. If they
Thank you.
complain.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You do a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Appreciate it. All right,
If you'd like to go to library, it's page 7 in your handout, page 74 in the, book. And Miss Rhoda is right there. Hey, Miss Rhoda. I know a lot of y'all are familiar with the events of the library and what all goes on there. As far as her budget goes, we do have a 5,000 increase. Some of that is insurance, and, the life and health insurance, and the other is a computer. She actually needs a new computer, so that's $3,000, and you got about a $5,000 increase. We don't have it in here this year, but I want to go ahead and put a plug in for Miss Rhoda, her staff, and at the library. As all of our departments head doing their department, she does a great job, but I think one thing that we need to look to in the future is it's summer programs, but her summer programs have become to be about 10 months out of the year with all of her programs, probably or 11. And we just might want to look at, the $4,000 that we give her for that program, maybe doubling that amount of money to help her out. And yet we talked about the numbers before, and, when I did the state of the, you can stay up here, Ms. Run. We talked about the numbers before, with this, when I did the state of the county as well, and they were pretty astonishing, the numbers. I think they'd had 8,000 people that month already, and the particular day that we did that, they'd had 400 that morning. So it kind of tells you what's going on there. We're very fortunate too, that the church next door is just so friendly about allowing to use their parking areas, and, matter of fact, I think they kind of encourage, if you've got something going on, please use it. So that's really great there.
program up there. You do a absolutely phenomenal job. I've never heard anything but positive reports about what's going on out there. My grandkids and kids have attended all the projects that you have and the programs that go on, and I've heard people from other counties, Dixie County and others, that come over here because of the programs that you have. So you are doing an outstanding job, and we certainly do appreciate it. And we would love to even give you more than what you're requesting here, but, cause we think you're using it wisely and doing a great job with it.
Yeah, the handout I gave Bobby is stats in the summer program, how many we had. I was able to supplement the summer program this year because I did reach out to local businesses for donations. So several of them did cash donations, which is why I'm not over more than the 127 that I went over on my summer budget. Because I did.
That's
donate.
awesome. And
The
we
room
have-
is about not big enough either, because I know I've been a couple times with my granddaughter, and it has been,
4 out of the 9 big programs that we had, we were within capacity. The others, we were not. But I don't want to turn anybody away whenever they come. We open all of the doors so that we do have access to be able to get out if anything were to happen. We keep the kids in a small area. We have chairs set up for the adults that need to sit. And I let them know how many we are getting in so that they know if you feel like you need to leave, we're sorry. But we got a lot of people from Alachua County this year also. I was surprised by that.
People want to come to a good thing, and you got them coming. So thank you.
and I sit on that library board, and, you know, Gilchrist County is always, I mean, we shine.
Yeah.
Killing it. Thanks for that.
We are
Killing it.
killing
Killing
it.
it. I know it's not a
Compared-
competition. I tell Bobby that, but I like to see what we're
It's not
doing.
a
I think
competition, but it kind
among
of
the other
is.
counties, but we are definitely higher numbers, so.
We have a couple other counties that are in with our, that are same, on the same board that sits with us. And, we're always way up there, our numbers, our library board.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Wow.
Good. Then you got from businesses?
Local businesses.
Our businesses are good, no doubt about it.
And I'm surprised at some of them that didn't donate, but I'm gonna work on them next year. But then I also did have parents who said, we didn't know you were doing that. My husband has a business, we would have donated.
Oh, yeah.
So I let them know that, okay, next year in May, I will start earlier to let any local business know that if you want to sponsor one of the library programs for the summer, you're welcome to do so.
That is a great idea.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rhoda. We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for what you do.
Thank you.
Mr. Newton, I think we pretty much completed the road. We did the other buildings at the last meeting as well. So do you want to go ahead and move into the other people who are present?
Sheriff, you'll find the sheriff's information in pages 83 to 97 in your book.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Everybody have a good lunch?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Good.
Good.
How are you?
Feel refreshed. Fantastic.
What page in our, handout there?
83 to 97.
Yeah,
Page 4 and 5.
page 4 and 5, I'm in the hand. 4 and 5. How's the jail coming along?
Well, we hope within the month, Mr. Project will probably give a more accurate time, but what I've been told is roughly a month. So they do start doing some punch lists and making sure that all the stuff there is working properly and stuff moving in makes sense. Hopefully soon after that.
Good.
Bobby Schultz, Sheriff, Gilchrist County. The numbers you see reflected up there are accurate. However, since we submitted that, we gave a second submittal, which this doesn't reflect the insurance rates that went up. So the actual, this initial submission was, an increase of 9.55% for a total of $741,559. And that was, again, with the insurance rate that wasn't put into the initial submission. Of that $741,559, about a little over $250,000 of that, $250,000, $260,000 is retirement increases and insurance. So the other, what we're requesting initially is an extra investigative position, which is roughly $87,000. And then other than operational increases and contractual, or issues that we have with, licensing and bonding and those kind of things, as well as a substantial increase in overtime. Now, this does not reflect any type of, pay increases. The board gave us direction to do not, put that in, which we honor that request. However, what I would like to do, I will not be doing anybody any service. A couple of commissioners have talked to me about things that would make the sheriff's office, the needs and how to make things run more efficiently, how we can recruit and retain our people a little better. So about 5 or 6 months ago, I was actually ahead of the curve. I got with my undersheriff, Robert Willis, and I tasked him with looking into basically doing a strategic analysis of how we can keep our people, how we can recruit people, and several other things. So I've asked him to come forward today. He's lived this for 6 months. He's taken a lot of his time on duty and off duty to try to come up with something that is reasonable. And what I would like to do is present that to you today to go along with what we actually need. This is bare minimum. This is bare minimum.
Does this cover the, your additional employees for the new jail?
The 4, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Which, to segue into my undersheriff's remarks, we can't even hire
Yeah.
one of the positions that you have already given us. So I'm gonna let him speak a little more, in depth on that. And again, it's my undersheriff, Robert Willis.
Thank you.
Robert Willis, undersheriff, I'm here on behalf of Bobby Schultz, the sheriff's office. Sheriff talked about the 741, which is the amended submission with the increase on the insurance. You have that, correct? I know it's not reflected in the slide presentation.
Victor. Yeah. Amended submission, correct? Okay, very good. Making sure we're starting off, but, that covers the increase in overtime, which is approximately $180,000, and I can explain to you why that is being requested. The $87,000 is additional position. Both of those are included in the 741 number that you asked about, the sheriff. But the sheriff said another $250,000 of that is insurance and retirement, which gone up. That does include the number, does include the new number for the 4 positions which are already funded from last year's budget amendment. Yes, that does cover that. The actual number, though, that we are going to be requesting, everybody hear me good? Is $1,393,969.69. 1,393,969. If you're kind of looking at it about to fall out of his chair there, I think everybody's gonna about fall out of their chair when they see that number to begin with. Let me explain to you why that number is a need, all right? What that does is, it accomplishes us being able to set a base pay, which accomplishes parity between both correctional officers and law enforcement officers at $50,000 on an entry level pay. Right now, the deputies are at 49 and change, and the correctional officers are 47 and change. So it's not a substantial increase in the setting of the base pay. The bulk of it comes when you have the 15% differential between ranks. So a sergeant, an entry-level sergeant makes 15% more than an entry-level deputy. An entry-level lieutenant makes 15% more than an entry-level sergeant. That allows growth within the ranks. Because the reality is not everybody's going to grow into become a supervisor or a colonel or a whatever. You need deputies and you need, very importantly, sergeants. Sergeants are some of the most valuable people within a law enforcement agency. And it gives them time to progress in that rank without exceeding and going past the immediate supervisor until they have a substantial time in service. This also covers the number that I'm asking for. It covers a percentage increase annually for those deputies, which will allow the board to predict about how much you're going to be going up each year and allow you to, when you're setting your millage rates or determining whether to change them or not, you'll be able to figure out a ballpark. If the staffing stays about the same and these same people stay here, it's going to cost about that much each year. That allows for a 2% continuous service award for each year of service for each employee. All right, so if an employee comes to Gilchrist County Sheriff's Office and starts with us and stays with us for 20 years in a deputy sheriff capacity, they're going to be making 40% more than an entry-level deputy. All right, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about it, you have a 20-year employee who has stayed with you continuously throughout their career. They've alleviated the cost of additional training, of having to, hire somebody else from outside, train them, see if they work out, and it reduces your turnover. And also on the deputy side and the employee side is, because this is not only for deputies, it's for all employees of the sheriff's office. If you have continuous service, whether you're a dispatcher, whether you're a civilian, whether you're a deputy, whether you're a correctional deputy, that 2% would apply up to a cap of 20 years. But it allows them to say, hey, honey, I just got me a job, at Gilchrist Sheriff's Office. Starting pays 50, but if I stay here for 10 years, I'm going to be making this much more. We can go ahead and plan for this house, or we can go ahead and plan to have this baby now. It allows those people to get a little bit of an investment into our community and into our, sheriff's office. And we want them to stay. We want people to be there. We want them to progress through the ranks. We want them to work in different divisions. It provides better service to the community because the longer they're there, the more people they know. The reality is we're getting a lot of young people. Some of them are coming from here. Some of them people coming from somewhere else. I've been here for 20 years plus, and started under David Turner. So people who are here longer, whether we're imports like me or whether we're locals like some of y'all, it gives us more of an investment into this community, and you're going to treat people better the longer you're here, as opposed to coming on basically as a hired mercenary. Hey, look, you got the highest pay for right now. I'll work for y'all for a couple of years, then I'll go to Levy County because they're paying 52. Or I'll go to Alachua because they're paying 55. Or I'll go to Marion because they're paying 56 or 60 actually. We need to set something that's reasonable for us. I'm not asking this board to compete with the Joneses. Not saying keep up with Levy,
keep up with the last one. So set something that's reasonable for us, set a separation between the different ranks, and allow them to have something to protect. That addresses both recruitment, retention, and allows for a market adjustment. Bidenomics has killed all of us. We've seen that in our housing prices, we've seen it in our food prices, we've seen it in everything. I know that's not something this board did, nor is this something this board can fix. And it's not just the sheriff's office that's struggling with it. But it's something that personnel, recruitment, and retention, I would suggest to this board respectfully as a taxpayer and a citizen, is the most important thing.
Yeah. Just real quick, related to increasing cost, I asked Mr. Newton related to inflation. Over the last 4 years, it's gone up 20%. And you see that in anything you buy, any pay your employee salaries or any of that kind of stuff. And so none of us want things to go up, but, things that are happening on the national level, have made them go up. And that affects all of us. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I'd asked him that earlier and you mentioned it, so
And I
sorry.
appreciate that, because it is something that needs to take into account. These are young people who are doing the bulk of the work, and every penny matters to them. Every penny matters to all of us, but especially when you're young and you're starting out, every penny truly does matter. It may be the determination of whether you see your fair, or how you live, or how your children are raised, and that's a big deal. And I want these people to have the best. I want our citizens to have the best. This also allows us to attract, built into this proposal, is a 1% experience pay built in for people who come from other agencies. We can't start all brand new people all the time. We have a lot of new people in our agency under 5 years experience right now. We have a lot of young people. We got a lot of people who've been here for a long time. Some of our middle level people are, there's a few of them, but the reality is most of them are going to go somewhere else where they can make more money if they're starting with us, or they're coming retired from somewhere else. Getting that middle level of experience is hard to do, especially when you're not paying the cost of experience differential. That cost of experience differential should not be the same as it is for our employees who have stayed with us. The people who have stayed with us through thick and thin should be getting that 2% annually. My proposal calls for a 1% experience pay. So if somebody comes from Lee County, or somebody comes from Alachua County, and say, look, I've been a cop for 10 years, what are you gonna pay me? I'll pay you 10% more. And it's capped, that's capped at 10 for 10 years, by the way. The continuous service is capped at 20, the incoming service is capped at 10 under this proposal. But they're getting 10%. So the person who's been here for 10 years, continuous, is getting 20% more than an entry-level person. The person who's coming with the same 10 years experience, but from somewhere else, is only gonna get a 10%. So it's double, there's a double benefit for continuing to stay with us. And I think that's going to show an investment into your employees. That's going to show an investment into your community. It's going to reduce your turnover, and long term, it will actually save you money.
What's the longevity of this proposal that you got right now? In other words,
How long does
it works for this year, next year, will it be something different, or is this?
Well, I think that this solves your problem moving forward. The governor has gracefully given us a whole bunch of money that
That's helped us tremendously.
left the money.
And y'all too.
Well, agreed. I tell them it's
That's
your
helpful.
money, not mortgage money. But when you're telling that to young people, that more money in their pocket, they're going to buy themselves a new truck, and they're going to buy themselves a new house because they're trying to improve their cost of living.
Right.
And I know you, as wise board members, are looking at that going, well, I need to be skeptical and cautious, because what if they were to remove that, then that's something additional that we would have to.
Yeah.
That's been my thought sitting here is, right now, they give us a lot of money, but that could be removed any year now.
Well, I can only tell you that all of the information that we're receiving, internally from powers that be, no offense to the politicians in the room, but the reality is that politicians sometimes will tell you things you want to hear. We don't know how long that's gonna last. It could last until tomorrow, it could last for another 10 years, it could last forever. I don't know that. But that 486, what it did in effect, it brought us up to where we're able to keep people, because if we didn't have that money, y'all would have either had to pay it, or we would have been back to the days of riding flatbeds and having one person on duty, which may not be a bad thing in some ways. But what it did is it caused a lot of compression. I've got captains that are making within $3,000 a lieutenant. I've got 10-year people who are leaving to go to Cedar Key. Good people, local people who've been working a long time, both in corrections and here at the sheriff's office, and they're making $10,000 more to go to work in Cedar Key.
Yeah,
Police officer.
I saw Mike
Okay.
the other day in
What I'm
Bell,
talking about.
and he had a Cedar Key vehicle and a Cedar Key, uniform, and I asked him, why are you in Cedar Key? And, that's the reason.
And his answer is more money.
Yeah.
He's older like me, but he's got a family and needs the same money everybody else does. What it did is it caused us a compression, and that's why I'm asking for the adjustment in setting up a base, and setting a base for each rank that applies to dispatchers. This proposal also does not only benefit, law enforcement and corrections, it also benefits the civilian employees of the agency and sets them at a base of 40. An entry-level person coming into a civilian position would be at a base of 40. And an entry-level dispatcher, once they're certified, because that takes about 4 months to get through all that stuff, they've got to go on that EMD and all that business. They're coming in at 42.
What kind of jobs are civilians doing that?
We've got a human resource manager,
Okay.
we've got a civil clerk. The nurse we have is a civilian, but that's set at 70, that's gonna be set at 70,000 on an entry level. You know, that's somebody coming to you with a nurse and RN,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so that's not something you can take peanuts on, or else
No,
the hospital
no.
will double that number.
Right.
But this sets a base for y'all, so you know exactly about how much it's gonna cost when you have this many employees. You can look at it and tell, and it sets a base for them so they can predict.
I understand you're gonna open the jail with their bare minimum,
That is correct.
and that's gonna be tough to do.
You
I
know,
mean, your overall plan, your construction company says you need a whole lot number than what you got. You're gonna put yourself on a limb there where, one issue could become, pretty good size, but, I mean, I know you can do it, I'm not doubting that or nothing, but what I'm saying is, if you need 36 and you're gonna do it with 22, that tells me a lot about how you operate and how you're gonna make this thing happen with less.
And we're doing the same thing, and y'all see it because you're looking at the jail and the construction process and through the jail committee meetings, that have happened over the years.
Right.
And y'all are seeing that in the jail now.
Yeah.
And look, we're starting at, like you said, around 21, 22 people in the jail. The construction folks will say, oh, you gotta have 30. In Gilchrist County, we get more done with
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
Because we use common sense and we try to consolidate things as best we can. All right? We don't want this place turned into Miami. We don't want this place turned into Alaska County, and we don't want our taxpayers taxed in that way either. So we're trying our very best to do as much as we can with as little as we possibly, coming to y'all and asking for as little as possible. So it's not just in jail, it's everywhere. We may ultimately have to come back and ask for more, but hopefully that's something that we can come to y'all ahead of time and you can plan for, as opposed to coming in and asking on the last minute.
Well, the way I look at it is, we've invested county taxpayers' dollars, $10 million in a brand new jail.
Yes.
And now we gotta operate it.
Yes.
Or we gotta get y'all to operate it, put it that way. And we've got to help you do that the best that we can. And that's every department. That's not just the sheriff's department.
Yes.
What makes yours a little bit unique to me is, you don't ever close.
We don't know.
You're 24/7, 365. So you have to cover all those bases. There is no downtime. There is no vacation. There is no off time. You do it 24/7. I mean, it's just the way it works, 7 days a week. And whenever you confront issues, I've run businesses before, when you confront issues, sometimes it falls down to you. I know when I'd have an employee call in sick, guess who gets to fill their spot, or guess who gets to close up, or guess who gets to open up, stuff like that. So, I know you're gonna do it as the best you can and as with least resources as you can. But we have to look at it from a standpoint, it's a brand new jail, and if we're gonna operate it and functional, we gotta do our best we can to make it happen.
Ideally, it would be nice to have an additional 4 people right now, but honestly, as forward-thinking as that is, and we sincerely appreciate that, the bottom line is you approved a 4-person modification in last year's, in the budget that we're currently in. And we still have not been able to fill every one of those positions because we're not competitive enough.
Right.
Which is why I'm saying that this is not a wand. I'm not coming into you and saying, hey, we want to keep up with Alaska County, we want to do
No.
something fancy and new.
No.
I'm telling you, we've got to come up with some way to address this personnel issue, or else ultimately you're going to be hemorrhaging employees and we're going to be even shorter than we already are. But we can't fill these. We've even looked at possibly putting civilians into the jail instead of correctional positions because we can't get people to come. And this solution, we got, how long would this be? This is not a single year solution. This is a long-term solution because it does bring parity between the correctional officer and the law enforcement officer, which would better make us able to compete with the state.
And it makes it a lot more attractive.
It does. I mean, we're never gonna be able to compete with state insurance. The state insurance is $180 for family coverage, and it's good insurance.
Yeah.
For us, you're looking at $1,200, $1,300 for that same family coverage. And I know, again, there's only so many things you can do to fix things.
Right.
I'm not saying please fix that also, but the reality is, if we're not coming within a close dollar to what they're making and making their working environment a little bit better and more predictable on their part, they have no incentive to come work.
I was looking at,
We're fine.
I was looking at some of the health insurance cost, average employee, we have to budget $8,214 per employee just for health insurance.
Health insurance
And
is the
you
problem.
multiply that up to how many employees you got, that's a lot. A lot of money.
Yeah, I think didn't the insurance go up about 9% or how much? 9% from last year, so that's a big part of it. Mr. Willis, I think all of us, you probably already know, support you all. Public safety is definitely one of our priorities in our budget. If you look at that and transportation, it's probably 70% of our budget. And, when we need somebody responding, we want the best to respond. And so I think keeping people, retaining people is a big deal, not only for you all, but the whole county. When we lose people, we have turnover, it costs us money. And sometimes it could cost lives if we don't have the right people or the right equipment. And so I understand that. I want to ask you though, if there was anything, I mean, you're saying 1.3, almost 1.4. If there's anything you could do without,
I anticipate that question. Trying to put myself in the position of the person that I'm asking for. If I was gonna ask that question, the sheriff's position, say, make sure that you have thought of it from their perspective. And you're sitting in their spot, what would you want to know? Bottom line is that the additional overtime, which is $180,000 request, just so you know, Jenny Springs paid about $97,000 last year in overtime. The last term. We paid approximately $180,000 overtime in last fiscal.
For Jenny, or just for overtime? Okay.
But when you couple those things, that's a sizable amount. That $100,000 subsidy that Jenny was paying is fantastic. But in situations that have come up of late, it's been made abundantly clear that that is not the best allocation of resources for this county or our agency.
I would agree.
And I tell you guys that, I know it's gonna cost the taxpayer more and the board more. It's also going to cost the deputies out of their pockets because they're getting billed at a higher rate than what the regular overtime. You know, we're sending them out and they're actually making more because it's coming from a private entity. So it covers the county portion and the deputy is actually able to make a little bit more than what a normal overtime would be. Otherwise, there has to be an incentive. So it's cutting them out of making a little bit of extra for their family, and it's gonna cost y'all a little bit. But what it's ultimately going to do is you're not going to have subcontracted services compartmentalized in one location. It's going to be those same resources need to be on the road during the 4th of July, during Memorial Day. The same number of people need to be there. They just don't need to be stationed and constrained to that one area. They need to be responding to all of the community, especially in the areas where you're gonna have higher traffic. It's not just Jenny Springs that's affected in the northeast part of the county.
Yeah.
And you've got
Blue
30,000
and
folks
blue.
rolling in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the reason for additional, overtime request. That in the jail, you talk about that. You know, the jail, we're coming in with short people, so we're gonna be holding people over and we're gonna say, you guys come in, and we're gonna be mandating people simply because we're gonna have to. Somebody goes to the hospital, we're gonna have to pay overtime for that. I mean, these things add up. So the additional overtime is requested as a need. But if you're asking me what is the priority, I would say the highest priority is addressing depression and getting the pay
Adjustment.
standard, to where you have your, and the retention.
For
That
retention.
2%, that 1% in setting up the pay scale for the employees
Mhm.
is the most important thing. Second, behind those two things will be the overtime, and third behind that would be the, additional investigator position. If you remove the overtime and you remove the investigator position from the budget, that number would then come to a 13.22% increase with an actual dollar amount of $1,070,500, $1,070,523. So you're looking
Could
at
you
another
live-
3% differential.
Could you live without that this year?
Without the position,
Okay.
I'll go take the investigative calls myself if we have to get the people what they need on the dollar amount.
Mhm.
I would reserve the right to come back and ask for modifications in overtime if needed. Does that make sense?
So this is taking overtime out and that investigator.
$180,000 increase in overtime, that would also take out the investigative position, which is 87. And that would bring you down to the 1,070,523.
And us knowing if you needed the overtime, you would have to come back to us.
But if we were prioritizing.
That would be the two things to
Those,
take out.
those would be really the only way.
I don't see a lot of wiggle room on the overtime, like you said, with the jail and everything going in, but if we could hold off on that investigative position for right now until we get this whole budget situated and see exactly what's gonna what's gonna happen this year, that might be, something I would like to see done, but I think you're gonna need your overtime, you're gonna have to come back and ask for it, cause you got a jail that's short-staffed and you got all this other stuff going on. It's already been proven, you're paying that out and it needs, we need to have them on the road if they're willing to work the overtime. We need to have them out there. And,
Well, and I think once you get these positions filled, that's gonna help with your overtime too.
Once we get the position, yes,
Right.
that is 100% right. And that's why those two top things are the priority, getting this,
Mhm.
Market adjustment and potential recruitment.
And that's why it's so important to do the step plan.
Yes, because if we can put that in place, that is going to allow us to recruit, retain, and the overtime should go down, very much like our fleet, our management out of our vehicles. We replace vehicles and our cost of repair and maintenance has gone down. We're still managing all those things, but we're able to not be penny wise and pound foolish, because ultimately yield better financial.
You've turned money in the past. You have any idea you're gonna turn any in this year?
We will be turning some in, I believe, this year, and the reason for that is because I can't fill the positions that you've approved. That's the honest answer. Any other questions I can answer?
No, but I appreciate you coming in with options,
Yes.
Mr. Willis.
Under
thank
Sheriff
you very
Willis,
much.
And I appreciate you working with us.
Under
too.
Sheriff Willis,
Fantastic.
can you provide me, the total requests?
I can provide copies of those, for record purposes. The request for, the initial request is $1,390,969. So it's a 16.56% increase. The second option that I provided minus overtime and additional position is $1,070,500, or $1,070,526.107.
Thank you, sir.
No, but thank you.
very
for the
much, man,
clarification.
appreciate it. Bobby, you and your staff do a great job, we do appreciate it, we're just trying to work through this thing and see what we can get by with this year.
Well, let's make it abundantly clear. We understand the act. Now, I'm not up here pounding my fist and saying, we waited out. I think at the last 12 years I've been sheriff, I made sure that I've come for you and been reasonable. I've made every attempt I could to keep our costs down. We've not really hired any additional employees in the last 12 years. What we've done is we've moved people around to where we need them. Crime is down in Gilchrist County. So we've been able to move people to different positions as they come around. Well, we've now come to that point where things are on the rise again. And we talked about, just a recap of what the chief said. You definitely need more people going to that jail from people. I've been on the record saying that. And I know this is a big ask. But if we don't address this compression issue, they're gonna leave. They're gonna go to the state. They're gonna go to the Washington County. They're gonna go to the, it's gonna happen. We're seeing it right now. If we don't figure out a way to bring some people in with, some experience, then we're going to have to take people that are probably not as good a fit as what we would want them to be. And that's not a good position. The citizens of Gilchrist County deserve better than having to take somebody who's got to pay versus being somebody that we want. And if we don't address these issues with the chief, which I want to thank him very much, he worked his behind off, him and his staff, come up with numbers, because you can see he's got it down. We all may not agree with it, everybody may not agree with what we're saying, but the thought process is there, and we have went over this thing. I agree with everything he said, everything he said makes sense. It really comes down to you is what you do. We will make do. To the people who's listening on the internet right now, whatever it is that the board wants to give us, they feel that we need to do, we're gonna make it work to the best project. But we're saying, I'm charged with being the chief law enforcement officer of the county. I'm telling you, if the wheel is wobbling, we can't afford to have that wheel fall off. Because when the wheel falls off, I don't know what to do. I'm not above that. I take calls myself. I'm a working sheriff. Chief is a working chief. And we're gonna continue doing it. But if we can't keep the people we have, you can't attract people to come in to work in that jail, we don't raise that up a little bit and get somewhat competitive. The options are limited. I can't fill it. I can't staff it. We're in a past situation, and we're 34 years of experience is telling you, after 12 years being your sheriff, you're gonna have to do something about this. I mean, people we got to be able to make it a way that we can get people coming and want to work.
I don't want the keys on this board.
Sorry?
I don't want the keys from you, that's for sure.
I wasn't gonna throw that out there, but I can
No.
only do what I can do, and.
No.
and
You gotta be able to hire people,
Gotta be able
and you gotta be able to keep them.
And the chief and I talked before we came in here is, Chief Campbell and, Mr. Rush and everybody else, we're all running into the same issue.
Absolutely.
Causing,
Road department, same way.
we get them. And unfortunately, that's not a decision I have to make, or fortunately, that it comes down to y'all. We're going out there with all the best case scenario, how we're gonna keep our people and our citizens safe as possible, and how we're gonna be with all the federal mandates that we have. Jail and limiting our exposure to liability. This is the answer. How you get there? That's what I'm throwing off on y'all, but that is bare minimum. This right here is something that the chief said that be sustainable or will keep us where we need to be for a number of years.
I appreciate you, both of you, presenting us with a plan of what it would take to get you where you need to be. I've asked you a couple times, what would it take to be able to hire the people that you not want, but gotta have? I mean, you just gotta have to be functional. You've hired 3, but you still need 1 more. And I've asked you several times, what would it take? And I think now you've come up with a plan. Can we make it work? Can we make it work all at one time? I don't know. But the thing, at least we've got a plan to know where you need to be and what it would take to get you there.
I respectfully ask the commissioner to really pay attention to the law, right? I know you do. And I'm just asking you to take a look at it and understand that it has to be addressed.
Yeah.
And not be ignored anymore. We've done.
And we agree.
Yeah.
We agree.
And it's not easy decisions, and I get that. But I won't be up here standing here. I wouldn't have passed, Chief Willis for the last 3 to 6 months of coming with something. Trust me, he has had plan to plan, and we wouldn't agree with it. This is something that, at the end of the day, it's gotta happen. We actually have, Chief, and you can correct me, a few positions right now.
How many?
A few positions, not just in corrections, that we can't fill.
Right.
They're admin, they're day shift positions. Typically, people scoop up, but we're not paying what everybody else is paying. Get a school resource deputy being one of them. If you want a school resource deputy, there's a lot of certifications to go with that. There's some training. We can't attract them paying $49,000. Now, we understand $49,000 is a lot of money, but I gotta look at it as, if I can't get them to come to work here, then services that are cut, and we're defunding the police, is what we're doing. We can't get them up there, and we're knocking back on services for the sake of money. We're defunding. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just ask y'all to pay attention to that. Whatever the board gives us, we will make work. I was asked by a couple of the county commissioners again to present problem and some possible solutions. I don't have the solution, how you pay for it. So with that, you have any other questions of me?
Thank you, Bobby. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you do and your staff. All right, is there any other departments to speak? Or have we gone through everybody?
Don't look at all those other departments.
Yeah, we do have the other departments to hit.
It's on page 13 of the handout.
Okay.
What page, Mr. Crosby?
It starts on page 13 of the handout, and then it'll start on page 13 also in your larger book, and Mr. Newton and I'll be sharing these. Some of them are board side, and some of them are court side, and he definitely understands the court side much better than me. But you see on, if you're on page 13 now, this is finance and administration. It's staying flat from last year. This just has to do with our tax deed sales and of course the postage and all that surrounded, a lot of the activities of the county. Are there any questions on that particular?
There's no questions. Flip to the next page, which is page 14. This is the county audit. As you can see, that's increased by contract, by contractual, obligation to 99,000. I will let you know, this is the third year of our contract, so, we should be getting a renewal sometime within the next probably 6 months, I think.
And you expect that to go up when you renew?
I would anticipate that there'll be an increase, for next year. But as of right now, this is what's in the contract, so, so we're good for next year.
So Todd, related to that, that's still the going rate. I mean, we would bid it out potentially when it comes back up for renewal, or?
So it depends. I mean, in the past, we've done extensions, without taking out for bid. But once we get to the end of the contract, that'll be, up to the board whether or not we just accept, what they offer. And a lot of course, would be dependent on what they bring, I would think. But
But if you look at other counties, this is in line with what other counties are being charged for
to be
audit.
honest, this is actually low.
Cheaper, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, we're in pretty good shape with this rate compared to what some of the new
And I think
rates I've
sometimes
seen.
we get a better rate because y'all do such a good job. It makes it easy on them that are coming
Well, I
in.
mean, there is a certain extent to that. I mean, there's things that we're able to provide them that some counties they have to do.
I'm telling you, 6
Four.
years, y'all have had flying colors every year, and I know if I were doing an audit, that'd be the kind of county I'd want to audit, one that's got everything the way it should be. Makes auditing a lot easier, so y'all do a great job, so.
It's helpful. We've got an ex-auditor, right, working with us, and
Yeah.
that always helps.
Todd, back to the tax deed sale.
Yes, they do seem to like to do that.
Todd, back to the BOCC detail. When Central Florida gets our internet connectivity up to par, will we be able to maybe bring that down to where they can advertise online and not have to do the advertisement in the paper and all? I mean, $30,000 is a lot of.
Well, $30,000 is in regards to the tax deed sale itself. That doesn't have anything to do with,
That's not advertising or nothing?
no. I mean, there's a part of that, yes. But, so your question is can we start doing just the online advertising as opposed to, it's definitely something we can address, for everything, for all.
Well, no, I know one of the qualifications at one time was we had to have at least a certain percentage of the county residents had to access to the internet.
That's correct.
Well, hopefully, that's right here in the near future. Matter of
Yes.
fact, it should be about this quarter, this month.
Yeah,
or
I
the
would
next
say, I would say probably if not by the end of this year, the first of next year, I mean, it's something we could address
Certainly,
and make a decision, on whether or not to go that direction.
right. Good.
Thank
So-
you.
Page 15.
Yeah,
so
page
just the next
15.
page over.
Our legal counsel, which is Mr. Lane, has stayed the same. Next page will be page 16, one page over. You want to speak on that, Todd, County Court?
So this is, the next, few pages are actually requested by the, county or not, the court administration, not county administration, but, by court administration. As you can see, it's a continuation for county court. There is an increase requested on page 17. You'll see that, pretty much, almost every item has a little bit of an increase. That's the, what they have sent across as the proposal, they're asking, this is what the board actually supplements. And it's typically, it's broken down as a percentage based on the other counties in the circuit. And I believe we have the support documentation for that is on pages 18 through I think 25, 26. And it basically gives a breakdown of each county, how much that county's, what their portion is, based on, their total budget request.
Mr. Newton, when you get through with that, if we could go back to page 15, I moved on a little bit quicker. Mr. Lane had some comments he wanted to make.
So we're, it looks like 4%.
4% along with Union County.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cause we're smaller, so,
That's right.
then Alachua County takes the most of. Yep.
Yeah, go back to page 15 if you don't mind, please.
Page 50.
Sorry, I moved a little bit too quickly there.
Yeah, we went over that rather quickly. I just wanted to point out a couple of things as far as that, legal counsel fee for the county. Of course, my wife is my only employee, and so she's my staff assistant, but I was looking at, Citrus County, Levy County, Marion County. I just wanted to point out to the board, because that seems like a high number. Levy County presently, under the 2023 County Attorney Salary Survey, paying their attorney $171,080 with also a staff assistant provided in FRS retirement benefits. So even though that 210 is a high number, it's about just a shade, almost half of what Levy County charges for them. If you look at Alachua County, their fee is $271,860. So that shows you there's quite a difference there in the attorney's rates here in Gilchrist County. Look at Marion County, $260,000. You can look at Citrus County, theirs is, I think theirs is $170,000. I'm not quite sure. This print's mighty small there, and these are kind of lumped together. But I just wanted to point that out as we were passing over that salary is far below what other county attorneys are getting for the same services that were provided here. And most of them have an assistant that's been provided to them by the county as well. Of course, I'm an independent attorney, and so I pay for the overhead and the copies and that sort of stuff that comes out of my office, as well as my own staff that works for me. But anyway, we went over that rather quickly, and Florida Association of Counties had put all that together for the 2023 numbers, and I just wanted to point that out to the board for your edification.
Like I said, we appreciate what you do. You have always kept us out of trouble, and, you do an awesome job, so thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, you do.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate
Thank you,
you very much. We don't always listen to you, but we should listen to you a lot more.
You should. God,
Jail with that.
Yeah. All right.
okay. Sorry,
I think we're still on some of the courts. Which page had you done page 17?
Did you do the county court and the circuit
We
court?
did county and circuit court. Pages 27 is continued, it's circuit court, DJJ.
I don't, Todd, I don't know how you could deny their request. It's mostly inflation, so I mean, I don't know how you could say we can't do that. I mean, there's really no negotiation.
I mean, you could, I guess you could challenge their figures, but I mean, you know, they've provided a budget request that indicates what their expenditures are gonna be for the next year. You know, now, if they came in with something outlandish, I mean.
Yeah. Oh,
maybe-
yeah, if their numbers like doubled and tripled, you could
You know,
challenge it,
maybe
but-
you could, you know, go to them and say, I don't quite understand your increase.
Right.
You know, and try and get better justification for an increase, but, you know, the
But
increases they're
they're
requesting, I
definitely in
think
the
are line.
ballpark and everything.
Yeah.
They show you what every county's paying, so,
Just inflation.
and it's just,
Yeah.
I'm just glad we're not leaving it a loss on everything.
Glad we're not paying so much for paying.
Yes.
We had their money, we could pay.
Yeah, I guess so.
Have their money.
The next item is a continuation request, on page 27. Page 28, is also a continuation request. And regarding that item on the next page is also a continuation request. And I'll be honest, that's one of those that I'm really surprised at. And regarding that item, I'm not 100% on this, but I believe we've been providing Guardian the same budget ever since I've been in office. They've never requested an increase.
One time, we used to have a juvenile, did we have a juvenile detention
That's the D.
place here in
we
the
used-
county?
We still do.
It is still-
That's the Department
Still
of Juvenile
operates
Justice.
down there?
Yeah, we
It
have
is.
DJJ, but, our juveniles, we have to send them if they're, being detained to Alachua County. But we do have an office right here in Trenton.
That's what I thought, there was one here in Trenton, and that's-
But
Right
now,
across from the court.
Right.
off there.
this budget is, for Guardian ad litem. This is actually, if you have, a dependency issue, the courts typically will, provide a guardian for the minors. And so this office basically, they have, like administrative staff that kind of oversee it. Your guardians typically are volunteers, so they don't actually get paid anything. But the office I think it's in Chiefland, it's either Chiefland or Bronson. It has administrative staff and administrative costs, and that's what this goes towards, is to help them, you know, be able to fund, that office. And it's a portion that we split, but between Lee County.
Page 32 is our storms. Basically, this is a number that we keep budgeted. If we do have a storm, we have to have a way to be able to pay out certain items so that we can mostly be able to track it easily for FEMA. And so we maintain this department for purpose of storms, and that helps us be able to track things easier by coding them to this department, but when you have to have a department, you've got to have numbers in the line items, so you can see that hasn't changed. We just use those line items, of course. We overspent those line items this year, but for a good reason. We had a storm, but we have received a lot of revenue to offset that over expenditure too. So basically, it's just.
We also been fortunate not to have a storm.
Right, right. And the overspending there is really just because you're waiting for FEMA to reimburse you. That's what it is. It's just a way you can, it's a lot easier when we have to produce all these numbers for Mr. Romans and them to be able to go to one account and produce these numbers instead of go to every department, try to pull out what part was storm and what part wasn't. It's
Can Mis-
also it's a lot more accurate. as
Can
well.
Mr. Smith give us update on, the storm that we have out there?
You want him to do it right now?
Yeah, what can, since we're talking about storm?
She called your number, Ralph.
Yeah. I think we're lucky because there seems to be a lot of dust in this storm.
So Ralph Smith, Emergency Management. So we've been watching the storm all day, had 11:15 phone call, actually had a 5:15 phone call with the state. Right now, we're tracking this at as a rain event, possibly 15 inches within 7 to 10 days. That is the information at this time. We have a Zoom call tomorrow with all department heads at 10 a.m. And we're just tracking the storm, and I mean, it's still way too early to tell a track. There's a lot of spaghetti models if you go through on the National Hurricane Center's website of it going around Florida, going into the Big Bend area. But as of right now, it's still too early to see if it's going to be a tropical storm, Cat 1. I mean, I've stood here before and told you guys, once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, I've never seen a storm that's a Cat 2 go back to a Cat 1. So,
No.
Warm water.
and everything I'm seeing
I've
is that
never seen one turn
Me.
around and go out of
Correct.
Mexico.
It comes in,
they're
If it comes
saying,
in there, it stays and
Yeah.
has to exit somewhere over land.
so they're saying a rain event, I'm saying Cat 1 hurricane's what I'm planning for.
And how far out is it?
Sir,
How many days before it would be here?
it'll be
Next
end of next week, possibly. I'll know more by by Monday, and I'm gonna send you guys an email
Email.
tomorrow of an update.
Something
I just ran out of time today and had to come to this meeting, so.
something I thought was unusual. They said there's a lot of dust in the
Yes,
storm
yeah.
and that's what's kept it from developing.
Correct.
It's in its own little dust storm.
Mhm.
So,
But yeah, hopefully Monday we'll know exactly. It'll probably be a named storm by Monday.
Thank you, sir.
all right. All right, we have a request for a 5-minute recess. Is that okay if we do that real quick?
Sure.
Yep.
Let's do a little 5-minute recess and hit the restrooms and we'll get back. Okay.
Good, how are you? Yeah, you.
Hey. Oh, I did. I started to tell Ralph that. That wasn't at a pond? Did you see that behind their office down there, the Trenton City Hall? After that rainstorm yesterday?
Oh, no.
It looked like a
I
lake.
saw it over here behind Jean's. It was a lake.
You look at this
Jean
picture,
buried
it's
it.
that whole lot covered.
What was that, about 3 inches?
It was terrible.
All the retention. Oh,
That's behind the city hall, that whole lot there in front of where Camp Hill used to be. Leaving my office. I know, that was amazing. I got it last night.
I know, I went and cut across and went behind Jean's to go home. And you remember when he bought that park from the county
Yeah.
up there? And that was all underwater, all the way up to where he parks the trucks underneath that
Yeah,
shelter.
that was terrible. It was so fast, they couldn't go anywhere. But I went by the DOT drainage after I saw that picture. Man, that thing was full. It was, so the drainage was working.
How you doing, Mr. Andy? I'm good.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Well, what would we do? You can't do anything.
I have a
That
toilet
man has
turned
had,
out.
they've had a time with that. I mean, I don't know where you can go with it. There's no place to go with it.
Only to do. Good.
Yeah. Well, you know, a tree fell on their house as soon as they bought it. Then tore their fence down. They just bought it though, is what I'm saying, so that was discouraging to them. And now the water, but I'll tell you something, that's always been bad on the west side. And there's a drain there, but it's always filled up and come all the way up to the garage since Holton Run built that house.
Yep, don't y'all have sand?
Cause I've lived there, I know, I've seen it, you know what I'm saying? I figured you'd get some calls from the log cabin guy that lives next to me. But it almost was all gone when I went home last night. It wasn't like yours behind the office, it was almost all gone.
Because when Tammy and I first moved out to 307, 307A, right in front of our house, was a power pole that belonged to y'all. And it went down and ran that, well, you know, it ran the phone thing. Well, they decided to switch it to do while we were out there, and they come took it up.
Oh,
You know, I mean, what's fault us? So, I built that.
Cause I had.
They could do something in their front yard. A little drainage, you know what I'm saying? But even at that, drainage ditch fill
I
out
knew that probably
when there's
would've paid
such a
for itself.
deluge in a short period of time. And what do you do?
That worked.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So I really don't know
How you
what to
doing, Nina?
expect that you would do.
Good, getting ready for school to start back Monday.
Trying to get that.
Good. I just want somebody else a happy camper in this meeting.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Good.
They buy an asset, everything total loss to them people.
No, it's gonna turn into one. I got it scheduled, budget workshop at 2.
I got, it was fun.
Regular meeting at 2:01 or immediately after. I don't know who did that, but anyway, that's okay. Immediately following this, they'll go into that and fix those things they didn't fix Tuesday.
I guess if I was counting,
I think that's what Matt was
salary.
Tell them they needed it, because as a law enforcement officer, you've seen situations where the ambulances were.
It's divided line.
That first one.
You're kidding. I said, who's your power company?
You know what I'm talking about, just, he wanted, I think he wanted to see that,
Checking out.
but he really wanted to know
I
about.
said,
the
but I will
ambulance
tell you, if I was out of
about
power and I could
having
pull that
third ambulance on the
string,
road.
I'd whoop
I
it.
got 2 on the road, I got a backup, I got squad can jump into it, and into the back.
Well, you know, I'm.
Most of the time,
so it didn't-
the ambulances go out of the county and there's a long delay, when somebody gets sick, they just have it. And so James is trying, but the cost of 60 is down. We gotta figure out how to pay for it. Bobby, let me ask you a question. On the sheriff's deal, that doesn't include that $1 million raise he's talking about, does it?
This
This number includes, huh?
The road.
No, it's not this.
Ready?
Plus that, we understand.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting back to order so we can continue on. Oh, sorry, I thought you were sitting there just a second ago. Didn't realize you dashed away for a second. What is next?
Page 37, forestry. We, are obligated to pay forestry. As you can see, it's went up $1 over the last 3 years, $14,651, and this is just to assist them. But anytime you see forestry helping us with a fire or anything within the community, we don't have to pay for that. This is, kind of helps cover that cost, and we have had some years that just didn't touch what they've helped us with, so.
And a lot of people don't realize what a great resource that is down there. If you're getting ready to plant or you're getting ready to harvest, they'll come out and give you advice on what you need to do. They were also very helpful when I was teaching, and I taught forestry, for a forestry contest. They would come and get plants ready for me and insects and the different things, and they would work with us. So, a lot of advantages to that, and so, the $1 increase is, There's a lot of advantages to them if people would use, people need them.
The next is page 43, that's our communication. That is actually our towers, our public towers. This pays the utilities, the rentals and leases, taxes that we have on the, agreement with the Royster Tower. You can see our insurance went up a little bit, and then we have repairs and maintenance. So it did go up a little bit, but that's $27,900. There's no questions on that. We have age to other government. That is on, page 46. This is also a portion of what we pay forestry. As you spoke of, they do a lot of different things for us, so they kind of charge under different categories for what they do, so. We're through with that one. The next will be page 67. This is our health care subsidy. You'll notice that the Medicaid program, this part is dictated by the state. You don't have any choice in what you pay or don't pay. That has went up gradually over the last, is it 5 years, I think it was, the plan?
I'm not
And-
sure gradually is the right term though, but.
No, gradually it's not.
It's been pretty drastic.
We had a $72,000 increase this year. So it is $376,152. That's what the state charges us. So we have no choice in those numbers there. So, so that budget did increase from roughly 383,000 to a little over 454,000. But we can't do anything about that one other than pay it.
As well as the Florida Healthcare Respite Act, that increase is just based on increase in population.
Yeah.
Is that what it's based on, is population increase?
What they've done on the Medicaid part that went up so much, the county shares used to be a lot lower, our percentage was, and over a period of time, they've increased that percentage. And it started off with a smaller increase, and each year that percentage got larger. Well, actually, each year the number got bigger, so as the number got bigger and the percentage got bigger, the increase got larger. So,
Yeah, the email that Chris Doolin sends out, I don't know, he addressed, there was, one of the articles addressing this the other day, I noticed. So I'm hoping maybe
this might be the
FAC is gonna be this is gonna be the year FAC tries to go back to the legislature to try and address this again.
it is.
Cause it's been a while since it's been discussed that I can recall.
Well, the last time it was addressed, they agreed to this program they was in. This is the last year of that program, so something's gotta happen to legislation. Either they hopefully will stop the increases, or either they're gonna be another program for increases in some kind of way. So we're gonna need to work real close with FACT in this legislative session, which will get started a little bit later this year due to the elections, you know, of, some of our our representatives and stuff. So we'll need to stay on top of that one. And I will say that I'm sure that, Mr. Doolin and Chris is probably already on top of this one because this was to kind of kick the can down the road and so that they could get a better plan somewhere in between. Because what they originally came up with 5 years ago, it was, this is bad, but that was terrible. So he did get us some relief, so. Mr. Newton, you want to take it from there?
So those are all the items that we had left that had not been discussed. So now it's just coming back to the items that we need to readdress.
Okay.
That was
So-
the MSTU and the fire assessment?
We do that during our public meeting, don't we?
No, you
Um,
come up with something.
Well, I would say we could go ahead and have conversations about it and try and figure out where we're at.
You were discussing that third ambulance on the road, how you were gonna pay for it.
So last meeting, it was readdressed, you know, it would be an additional 300,000 in EMS, an additional 300,000 in fire, to add the additional unit. And we had conversations about if you do that, you need to address how to pay for it. And of course, that would be to to raise your MSTU, and raise your fire rate. You know, of course, we have, you know, kind of addressing the elephant in the room. You know, the sheriff just spoke to us about additional increases, you know, needed. We do still have, you know, the other constitutional officers coming back, you know, to address, increases in pay. So I think the challenge that you have before you is trying to figure out, you know, how do we pay for all of the needs? You know, and figuring out, is there anything based on the requests that you can do to reduce the requests that are there? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. You know, the sheriff, you know, graciously did, you know, put in his request and then put in a more of a, you know, base request, I guess. And so, I mean, I think the board has to figure out, where do you land on that? You know, do you go with the higher number? Do you go with the lower request? And then, you know, with fire and EMS, you know, do we add the extra unit? And if so, you know, where do we go to fund it? So, we also, you know, last meeting we discussed, the assistant county administrator position. We still haven't addressed that. What am I missing? So I think there needs to be some conversation about where do we go from here, and, you know, what are we adding, and
Well, well, I think the big one we're looking at is the sheriff. What do we wanna do with the sheriff? Do we wanna go ahead and fund his minimum request, or do we wanna go ahead and add a little bit additional to it? He always comes back every year with a little bit of money, and he only spends what he has to, but it's a big increase this year, but if we're gonna.
Well, I'm a little confused, and I think Mr. Crosby answered it for me at the break, but on the sheriff's slide, the very first slide, requested 2024 through 2025, 8,196,164. Does that include that 1,393,969?
it does not.
It does not. So that would be added on top of the 8,1.
Well, and I probably should have gotten a clarification. I mean, I
Because
think
that's
I got
confusing.
I think I got the answer that I was looking for, but I almost asked again. If I understood the undersheriff, what he was saying was that the two numbers that he provided was the increase over last year's budget. So when you look at last year's budget, the 7,510,000,
Right?
he's not requesting 8.196. He's requesting,
You take the 7,510,789 and add 1,393,969, you think is what he was trying to do?
yes, that's
That
what I,
would be funded, that would be a 16.5%.
because when they started, the sheriff indicated that their current increase was $741,000 with the insurance, increase. And with the raises, or with the salary changes, the increase would have been 1,393,969. And then if you know, when Commissioner Smith asked, you know, is there anything you can possibly do without? He said that would be an increase of 1,070,523.
Which would eliminate the new investigator position and no overtime.
Correct.
And then he did state, you know, and we realize that if he does need overtime, he said he may have to come back to us.
But I just wanted to clarify for, you know, for my sake, I didn't know if everyone on the board already understood that or not. Where
Well-
that requested 2024, 2025 budget information was coming from. You're saying start with the 2023 budget that we're in and add those numbers, those increases on top of that to come up with the bottom line budget, Mr. Clerk?
The percentages line up with the 8,196,164 to be replaced with the 1,393,969. 70,523.
Yeah, plus a little bit of, increase in,
The percentage
Insurance, I believe.
number that he gave, his increase would increase that to 200,000 or $2 million.
How much money? or how
Not
much-
2 million.
That's where I was a little confused, because he's
Well-
already asking for a $750,000 increase, but if
That
he.
may not be right, Todd. I wasn't looking at the
So,
numbers.
so if you take the,
I think
last
Todd's
year's,
probably right, what he's
if you
saying.
take last year's budget request, or approved budget of 7,510,789, and you multiply that times 16.56%, that provides a number of 8,754,576.
What happens if you do the 13.22%, which is without the investigator and without the overtime?
Let's see. What was the percentage again?
The reduced one was 13.22% by eliminating the investigator and the overtime.
Gives you 8,503,715.
Yeah.
Do we need to
So-
call him back, ask him if he can come back, maybe?
So, Mr. Newton, I was gonna ask, we've got a meeting on Monday, correct? And so can't we get a clarification before Monday?
I hate to discuss this without him here.
Yeah.
I'd rather the sheriff be here, so he can answer
what
these
we're trying to
questions, so we're not guessing.
Nobody quite sure. Mr. Thomas just stated that he thought it was the 8,196,164 plus the requested increase of the two options, either the 1,393,000 or the 1,070,523. I don't know, I was a little bit confused.
That's the way I understood it, he's wanting that 1 million and something extra above and beyond that.
Well, based on the percentages he gave us though, I don't know how, the numbers wouldn't match.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, instead of wanting the 8 million, he's just wanting the, what is it, 1.2?
I was under the impression that he was wanting the 1.3, but without the investigator and the overtime, it was $1,070,523.
That's correct.
So if you take the 7,510,79 from last year, and you add $1,070,523 to it, I come up with $8,581,312. And that would be what he's requesting to bring him where he's at. In other words, he is already asking for 750. If you throw in another 250, he gets what he basically saying he can live with without the deputy and the.
I'd rather.
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah,
For
let's just get
clarification, I'd rather
clarification
that.
from him and talk about Monday.
And I agree, I think,
He needs to be here.
I think some clarification would make sense.
And that's that right there is what he's asking is a 9.13%. If you add another 250,000 to do that, that's gonna bring it up to about the 12%, 14% he was asking for. So I think that's the number that I was looking at.
I believe that the confusion results from the fact that they stated that the requested budget was 8,196,164, and then they came in with those two different numbers of 1,393,969 or 1,070,000. Because, and then we don't know, have they already included that in this number or have they not included that in this number?
Correct.
And it doesn't look like they've included it if you just come up with, what, 8,700,000, whatever that latest math you just did, Mr. Langford.
So, but there's that until him to come back.
I sent a text to the sheriff. I was waiting to see if he answered.
Well, even in his page 83 where he did his budget submission, it says the increases in this budget submission are the result of increases in the cost for an additional investigator, which he took out, investigative supplies and costs, legislative increases, and pay for the sheriff's statewide auto fleet insurance, and it goes on. Then he also says the need for a market adjustment is pay overall as well as retention incentive to adjust for compression issues. There again, the way I figure it, he's asking for a total of 8,581,312. But I could be wrong. He can come back and answer.
think that is right. But you better get him for everything.
All right, we'll just wait until he can come back and answer that question. All right, then, as far as, we need to discuss, salary for, is that something else, what, for,
Assistant County Administrator?
yeah, it's an assistant administrator. We need to discuss the salary for that. What,
And y'all had asked me to bring back what, the Dixie County and then, Madison County, which are two counties directly below us in population. Home, I did talk to somebody, the lady didn't know how much, the assistant made, but that person was also, HR and also did a little bit with grants, but they have, a Liberty Partners that does all their grants. So that person kind of works with Liberty Partners. So I don't know what Holmes does, but Madison County, with the assistant, she said right now, was 40,000, but that was gonna go up a little bit with the budget because the administrator was 78, and that was going up to 81. For Dixie, for the assistant was 60,000.
that's what I was thinking, more in that
Yeah.
50 to 60,000 range is what we were gonna have to do to bring someone in.
You know, that's the base pay, not what you'd have to budget.
Right.
Right. And then Taylor, I couldn't get a hold of them, but I did call the two counties below us, Madison, Dixie. And then Holmes and Taylor, I didn't get any numbers from Holmes, but I did find out like what they use for grants. They use the Liberty Partners to go, to get their grants. They help with their grants. They have a contract. Yeah.
So what do y'all think? What do we do with it? If we, is it based on, do we give a range and then base it on, their, qualifications?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, suggestions? Is that usually the way it's done? As you say, it's gonna be a base salary between $40,000 and $60,000, and it'll be based on experience and qualifications and things such as that?
Because right now, I think our administrator, we're advertising that from 75 to 100,
Right.
that range. So what are you thinking on this for assistant then?
Can I
My
just
thought
interrupt
is-
just a second? 40,000 is not gonna work.
I know, I didn't
Well,
hear it
but
would,
let me just tell you why. Your new DOR number for a salary employee is $48,333. So you gotta at least meet that or make this person hourly, and I don't think you would wanna make this an hourly person, so
between
that's,
50
that,
and 60?
sir.
Between 50 and 60?
Well, I'm just telling you what your base number needs to be if it's gonna be
Needs to
the
be over,
salary
needs
that
to
you're
be over
required.
48.
Sir,
Needs to be over 48.
needs to be over 48,333, and then
That,
it's
that
either
number-
January the 1st or July the 1st, that's going to 54,000 and something dollars, so.
So maybe 55 to 60 maybe then?
I mean, just, so that's kind of where you'll.
So, Bobby, can you explain that you said that DDR number?
Well, the Department of Revenue, I mean, the Department of Labor is what it is, DOE, really. What they do is, a few years back, they set the minimum for a salary person to be 39,555 or something. They have a formula based with inflation. You can actually go online and pull up the formula, but so the new one for this past July of 1 of 2024 was 43,888. There's still a little confusion out there. Originally, they said July 1st of 2025 would be the 53,000 and some odd dollars. I can't remember quite the odd dollars now. But I've also heard that they're looking at maybe backing that up from July 1 to January 1 of 2025. So I haven't been able to confirm the January 1 ruling, but the July 1 of 2025 is confirmed.
If you
So-
pay less, you're considered an hourly employee
Correct.
subject to, overtime
Correct.
regulations.
So you're subject to overtime regulations.
So if we start at 55, go from 55 to 60, then we would, be okay, that law then would be within that law.
And I think you're within a range, if you're gonna, you could get a quality candidate.
My thought is to wait till we get a new county
Oh,
administrator.
I think definitely.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
And then promote somebody, maybe he wants to promote somebody from within.
Absolutely.
It's actually January the first.
Yeah.
I had someone send me a text.
58,656.
58,665, so $59,000.
Yeah, but don't we know, well, don't we have to plan, Commissioner Langford, kind of what,
You're saying budget it whether you hire.
Budget
Yeah.
before you hire, yeah, I'm not saying let's go out and hire an assistant today, we gotta get an, county manager before we get an assistant.
what are your thoughts?
But
Um,
I think we have to, don't we need to budget one?
Yes,
If we're
yes,
gonna-
that's,
If
I
we're
mean,
gonna
that's,
get one.
that's the
And so if we
conversation.
put in the budget between 55 and 60, then we would have a number to play with there anyway when it comes around. Is that what we're?
That's exactly right. If you don't go ahead and budget for the position, then you're gonna have to add it
Doesn't mean you
outside
gotta
the
hire
budget.
them this year, just
Yeah,
means we
it-
got the money available.
Correct. It doesn't.
Whether
mean
you
have
hire it or
to.
not. If
Right.
it's in the budget, you can always not utilize it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tommy, I agree that we ought to let the new county manager evaluate. They might decide they have a staff person that they may or may not use it basically. And so I think we're just putting it in there as authority. We don't have to spend it, or they won't have to spend it. So I agree with you, yeah. But, so as far as putting a placeholder in the budget, though, we could,
like 55 to 60 maybe?
yeah.
Everybody sound pretty good with that? I mean, we need to vote on that, is that's,
It's a workshop.
It's a
you can-
workshop.
so that's what
Is
I
it
was
the
wondering.
consensus of the board to have the clerk do that in his budget to be presented?
So if we could, somewhere, is that good with everybody, between 55 and 60?
He might not need an assistant.
He may not,
Yeah,
he
that's
may
true.
come in and say, hey, I don't want an assistant, but I'd like to
You
make,
may want to pay somebody that's already in the office a little bit more money to take on some more responsibilities even.
yeah.
What do you think, Richard,
That's always an option.
about budgeting for this proposed or?
We're still what now?
And I agree, but I'm hoping that, I was hoping to bring in somebody that could be trained to move into that position. If we hire a county administrator and so many years down the road, they're ready to retire, every year he's gonna get raises, and then he'd be ready to move into that higher rate. I don't know that you can start them higher when we may be paying our county administrator at 75, because that's the bottom rate right there. So all of a sudden, oh, we're gonna hire an assistant for more than that, so. But I think it's very low, but.
Mhm. Thank you.
Don't take that wrong.
I know the numbers are low, but we,
From see what we get.
yeah, we have to see what we,
I mean, I think that's the reason Levy County is starting at, 105.
I think it's 100 to 165.
100 to 165,000.
for their county administrator?
Yeah,
Okay,
the only, and part of the reason is you want to attract somebody that's here, but they're gonna be, paid at the level that they're expected to, take over a lot of higher responsibilities. Hey, that's why a doctor makes
yeah,
$400,000 rather than, but
yeah.
of course, nobody thinks that.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so the consensus is to put the position in, $55,000 to $60,000 as the budget.
Yeah, we'll put it in there at that, and then we'll have to play with it when we see, after we get a county administrator and see what their needs are and what they're expecting out of an assistant. At least we've put some money in there that's been budgeted in that direction. I mean, and then, like I said, we may get a county administrator that says, no, I don't want anybody right now, I wanna find out what's going on, and then after he's there for a while, they may find someone they can just shift extra responsibility to and make it part of their job type thing. I don't know what, I mean, he's done a great job by himself, but I'm sure he could have used an assistant at some time. So,
It doesn't matter how much help, sometimes you can always use another arm,
yeah,
I mean, and then sometimes you got too many arms, but
Yeah,
that's just the
and-
way things go, they come in floods and they, But,
I
you know, the
know, I
thing
can go out on the water sometime and get done a whole lot more by myself than if I have someone with me, but sometimes it's so nice to have that extra set of hands to hand you something.
And I will say this, from when I started in 2012, I think the budget was 24 million, and we had about 3 million in grants or something, and that was 2 grants. So you see where we're at today, we got roughly almost a $60 million budget, and we got 30 grants. So there's a lot that goes with when got this many grants, you got 60 million, you've got 7,000 more people. In the last 5 years, the dynamics of this county has changed a lot from my first 7 years. And a lot of it is growth. And when the growth came here, it came fast, and we knew it's gonna happen, and again, interest rates go down and people wanna sell the property, it's gonna come fast again. But, it's manageable. I've been very fortunate that I think I've picked every department head that I have except for one, and he's done a great job. He's been here the whole time. And that is a key thing in how
I
your
was fixing
department
to say,
heads.
that
do
helps your
departments and
job a
manage
whole
them.
lot
Yeah.
when you get the right people and.
But there's a lot of
department
directional that has to go on. I kind of compare it to, a football team, except y'all didn't give me a contract that paid me 10 million when I left. You got a lot of people working for you, and you're trying to direct all that, but now it's taking more directing, because there's more happening and more going on. So that might simplify it a little more than what it should be simplified, but that's kind of what's happening. I mean, we're building a jail, so we're working a lot with the sheriff's department, just in that, and, that we're looking to get a new ambulance. So that's, you got $2 million worth of other buildings fixing to go on, trying to get another $1.5 million to go with another building. You got a $400,000 grant for, upgrading of the EOC for the design of that, which tells you if they're gonna give you $400,000 just out of the blue to do that, then they've got some money somewhere to make these upgrades. So you're gonna have that coming along. We're looking at, and I'm getting off key here, but we're looking at, the health department remodel. There's the sheriff's office rehardening. There's a lot going on, and it takes a lot to orchestrate all that. So each person does it differently, is what I need to say. So the next person may want help. Right now, it works good for me. but, you know,
All right, I think the consensus is it's between 55 and 60, and then we'll at least have some money budgeted there, for a new county administrator to decide what he wants to do with it. All right, what else we need to discuss?
The sheriff is here, if we can
Oh,
get them to come back up.
Okay. Can you come back up? We had some questions,
Under Sheriff, can you give us what the total budget requests are for the two requests that you provided?
Total request?
Yes, sir.
Yes, the dollar amount,
Dollar amount.
the primary proposal is 1,393,969.
But the total budget
the total
request, so do we have that number?
See the slide, Robert, up there?
You're looking at, 8904,648.
0468.
8, 9,
So that is what we thought.
Okay.
And then this,
The 741, is included in that 13 number that I had.
And then,
okay.
and then,
It's not in addition to.
and then if we remove the new position and the overtime, that
Then-
number would be,
Number would be
okay, see where we
8581,202.
1, 2, thank you for coming back.
This is
That's, I had 858, 8,581,300. That's pretty close. Phil, that's what I was, that's the reason the way I comprehended it was, you're already asking for the 9.3%. So if you put the other 250 or whatever it worked out to, dropping the deputy, the 1 million and thing, it comes up to just about what you said. That's the way I interpreted it.
We just,
But we wanted to clarify that, because everybody wasn't on the same page.
Yep.
No, sir.
not,
Thank
we
you.
got what we got now. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay.
Are we clear on that? Okay, clear as mud.
No, I think I understand now what he wants anyway. So 8581.
I had 8.
So Todd, the difference was,
312.
at the 2023, 2024, the 7510, 789, to get to that number right there,
Would be.
was the increase of the 1,070,523. Are you adding up numbers over there? I thought you were.
Mhm.
It'd be about a $385,000 increase then.
Above was in the budget.
What, right? Approximately.
Yeah, that would come to 8,581,312, which is what,
That's right.
almost what he just
That's
said.
right.
That was pretty
Almost.
close. $100 difference. And that number would be,
385,148.
$385,000.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, what else? There,
We still haven't really discussed fire and EMS. Thoughts on where we're at on that?
well, your recommendation earlier is that we go up to 1% on our MSTU. And then on the, fire assessment, go to 177, is that what it was?
177. If we were going to add 300 to each budget,
Uh,
that's what would be necessary to cover the difference.
I have a couple questions for Chief Campbell.
Alright.
I know in your, budget, I know here about 2 months, probably 2 meetings ago, you had asked for a mobile command center that we was gonna have to pay, I think, 40,000 our match. 30, is that in here?
That is not in there
Okay.
because of Chief Campbell Fire Rescue. When
I
I
just
did
wanted to
ask
make
for
sure.
that, and I'm gonna come up with some other numbers for you. I'm just working on some other stuff with it. We did get the grant, but I also asked for that to not specifically come from fire and EMS just because of, I wrote the grant as it to be a community asset to where law enforcement can use it PDC can use it. Our community paramedicine program is planning on using it. There's several different places that can use it, and I was requesting that maybe you could, general fund has more available to do it out of. I would.
But we don't know if we're gonna approve that or not. That has to be brought back to us, is my understanding.
Exactly. And
Okay.
that's why I'm still working on stuff. However, if you.
I was just making sure.
$10,000 off the trailer, the max is still 31,
I know.
250.
But now under EMS, with the EMS fund balance, not our general fund balance, the targeted, we can, when it pull out approximately $147,000. And so then we would only need $150,000 out of EMS. If we use that, you know.
Well, you also haven't considered, I don't think we've applied the,
salary
whether y'all
changes.
improved the pay increases for
No, that does not reflect.
BOCC employees too, so that would have to come out of fund balance as well.
Okay, how much of that would come out? How much do we know?
$49,000 was on the
Yeah,
last
right,
worksheet.
50,000.
In collections, I know I asked, I don't know, about 2 meetings ago for collections, like a sheet on what we're collecting. How are we doing on collections? Can we get something so we can see like we used to?
Yeah, so right now, the service we use, NP Cloud, changed all of our reporting. They changed it to an ad hoc reporting, which I use that for multiple other platforms. I tried to rebuild the reports, and they have made some major changes in there and messed up the reports that we used to get. Ms. Sherry was just able to get some reports she's confident today and send over, and that's just on what we've been depositing lately. Which is a good lesson so far. Hold on, back. I got it.
So a question I think I have then, are we increasing our collections? We're
Not
not.
by much.
But we're running more calls, but we're not
We're not really
increasing.
running that many more calls. And just remember too, that even if we increase our collections, when we do with this TCG program that we do, they do a cost report for us every year. We pay for a cost report. We buy down on a government buy down program and we get that federal money back. That report gives us a really good number on how much it costs us to run a call. Best average, we're still only about $400 to $450 of revenue per call that we receive from insurance companies and self-pay. And our cost reports consistently say that it costs us between $800 and $1,000 to run a call. So if we continue to run more calls, we're only getting 50 cents on the dollar.
So even though we're not increasing our calls, we still need, an additional ambulance?
Yes, I mean, we have some increase in calls, but it's the consecutive calls together.
Okay.
It's the longer transport turnaround times. It's the fact that they just never stop anymore.
And also another question, I know we bill like, their health insurance and stuff like that, but do we bill like, for, the auto insurance companies also?
Yeah.
Like when we go to
bill
wreck?
everywhere and so here's what'll happen is if you get in an auto accident, have a medical emergency in Gilchrist County, you get transported to the hospital and you don't provide us any information, you will get a bill sent to your house for the full amount of the bill. Y'all have approved a 30% prompt pay discount. That way, if you pay it within 180 days, and I'll say they're very lenient on that, so we'll give you 30% off that bill. That's something y'all approved when we changed the fee schedule because we did go up to get more money from insurance. The other options on that bill, provide us any insurance information you have. Ms. Sherry is very good about realizing that, hey, this is an auto accident, provide me with your auto insurance. Every report, you can't even close the report out unless you say if it's workplace related or not, we can't even close it out. If it's workplace related, she'll go track down your workers' comp insurance. We try every means possible, and sometimes the easiest way to do that is to send you a bill for $1,200 and say, hey, do you have any insurance that can help cover this? And people are responsive to that. Call us up and say, yes, I had a young lady in my office yesterday come in about a bill. Doesn't say you have insurance. Well, I have Medicare. Walk her right in Ms. Sherry's office, if she types it in, and she's gonna bill her Medicare.
Does Ms. Sherry have help with this? Because she doesn't,
No.
she does not have any help.
James, do we set the fee schedule or is that something set on a national level or state? We do. Okay, so,
However, you can set the fee schedule as high as you want to.
but you can't collect.
Insurance only pays, and
Yeah.
our highest payer to collect the most money from is gonna be Medicare, and $500 to $600 a trip versus Medicaid, $200 a trip. And like Medicaid will tell you, you can't balance bills. Some of the Medicare plans, we can send you a bill for the remaining. Some of the private insurances, we can send you a bill for the remaining. Medicaid, we have to take $200 for that trip and write the rest. We don't even write the rest off. We do adjustments now to say if it is a bona fide Medicaid patient, we're not gonna write off $1,000. We're gonna show an insurance adjustment that we can't bill any higher than that.
So,
Miss-
go ahead.
Okay.
No,
Sorry.
just kind of same line of thinking.
I was just trying to get.
The percent that we collect is at what level now? Is it 75% or just roughly?
Kind of what we've done year to year, the last 2
Yeah.
years. Do we have that information,
Commissioner,
Mr. Holman?
if I can give you some information real quick. In 2020, we collected $865,000,
800 and what?
865,000. In 21, we collected 895,000.
Okay.
In 22, we collected 964,000. In 23, we collected 880,000. And our projection for this year is to collect $896,000.
And from what I have seen from Ms. Carey, and this is just numbers off of her desk, through June, we were at 671.
That's correct.
And I've seen some numbers from July, because I have been trying to build these reports, and it looks like July has been, we've got a lot of numbers ready to post up there, and it looks like we had a good month in July. So I hope that we'll exceed that. But collections has always been tough, and even when Medicaid went up and said, hey, you have to pay at least $15 an hour, and we're gonna adjust your Medicaid rates, we get an average of $2 per call more now.
But even if we increase our percent collections, it's still gonna be, say we increase it by 10%. How much money are we talking about to be able to make up some of, I mean, for revenue?
You're not going
You're
to.
not gonna
It's
do that,
not
because
gonna
the
be a
more
lot.
calls that you run,
Yeah.
you're taking a loss on every.
You're losing,
single time
okay.
that truck pulls out of station.
You're
Every
losing,
time it leaves-
You're losing money.
Losing
Well,
money.
and that cost report was really eye-opening, because it says, hey, you know, we know that we're collecting, at one time, we were collecting $425 to $450 per call. Actually, I think it was $435, cash calls, what they called it. For every time that truck left the station, we make an average of $435. Cost report says it costs you $900 to pull that truck out of the station. So.
We're
if
losing money
if we
every
ran
time we
1,000
make.
more calls per year, we'd be in worse shape.
James, a little bit off the, that discussion, but I did talk to several of your counterparts around the area, and I've already talked to you about some of this, but, and I gave them the numbers, asking their opinion of, you know, what they would do in their situation. And so far, I haven't gotten anything different than what you basically have suggested. You know, the things they point out is, you know, 1 hour uncovered or not having coverage per day. You know, I guess that doesn't seem that important unless it's you or your family or some friends or being available. And I know we can call in mutual aid from other counties, and that we're dependent on them then to respond to us. But that affects, the thing they pointed out, it affects your response time. And I think you told me the average response is 15 minutes maybe, but you may have some that are longer, a lot longer than that.
We have an average response time right now of 12 minutes.
Okay.
Now, in 2016, we'll call it 2017, I started crunching those numbers, we were below 10 for average. Now, in the chart that I showed you, where most of our calls occur in the county, they're occurring in the city limits of Trenton.
Okay.
Where there's a truck 2 miles away. So that really affects that average time, but it doesn't include all the outlying calls that still, you know, south end of the county is what 74% of all the calls they run. Anything you're doing in Fanning Springs, which there's quite a bit of calls in Fanning Springs, you can get there sooner than 10 minutes. You're doing good. That's if you're coming from the station. Here lately, we're not coming from the station. These guys are responding, and the one thing that there's no way in my system to track unless I just sat there with a pen and paper and every single time they responded from outside of the county that I tracked it. But they're responding from I-75 and Newberry Road, they're responding from Jonesville, they're responding from Newberry. The rule is, I-75 and Newberry Road, you're subject to one call. Because we know that we can get back to our county faster than if I try to call mutual aid, unless I just got lucky and Levy or Dixie
Or
just
coming
passing
through,
back
yes.
through. And, I mean, that's just, you're rolling the dice there. I don't know how they track their trucks. We GPS our trucks and dispatch can see our trucks on GPS, but we can't see Dixie, they can't see us.
So you just have to call and say, hey, do you have a,
Yeah, and by the
Ambulance
time that
passing
call happens and the supervisor's involved.
we're already coming, but just in case
Yeah.
there's one here, then we cancel our call and they.
Right, and I won't say that it hasn't happened, and sometimes it's happened because they rolled up on a call. You know, they see something going on. I've had 2 of them over the years, where if we don't have a truck, we're clearing out the office. You know, who else in the office can run a call? All those cardiac monitors on Grant, put in the supervisor truck. Sometimes if we're just closer to stuff. We're getting out there. Levy County stopped one day and said, I know if you're on the side of the road on the call, then you probably don't have a truck available. I'm gonna call my supervisor. And they took their care right there. We didn't make that one. Our truck was coming from Newberry, so I wasn't even gonna bother. Everybody helps each other out, and we're fortunate that 2 other county EMS units have to drive right through us to get home.
Yeah.
The other thing we talked about the other day was, can we get existing staff to come in? And you basically told me that, on average, there's some people working 80 hours a week.
Yes.
And then they're also mandated to work a certain amount of time. So just trying to look at if there's another alternative to, number one, do we have to have it right now? And just going through all this, I'm still trying to figure all that out, but you keep checking these things off and basically you're telling us, we got
have to have it.
3 years ago. Yeah.
I mean, we've tried to put this off, we've tried to play within the numbers, and we've always planned to do more, but the increases over the last 3 years that we've had to go up in budget for payroll, I mean, Medicaid hit us, but Medicaid hit us after we did a raise for the county, and we had to add another $1 an hour. Actually, some of the guys in there got $2 an hour. EMTs for our county had to come up over $13,000 in 18 months. So it's really hard to budget for adding another truck on when every time we were making a little headway, we had to increase the pay, which, you know, the crazy thing is these guys are making $50,000 and $60,000 a year base, but they're still making $15 an hour. Our highest paid employee who is not a supervisor makes $17.55 an hour. That is, you know, the captains are a little over that, but that's a person that's been a firefighter paramedic for 15 years. 55 cents above base right now. Now that does work out to $59,000 a year, but they work 840 hours of overtime every year without being forced to work anything else. We are one of the only departments in the county that run 24/7. The doors never close. And if we're down a person today, we don't take a truck down. Somebody has to stay home. Somebody has to stay. Somebody else has to come in. They get mandatory overtime. They're required to come in as full-time employees. And that's a standard amongst all fire services. That'll be our next hurdle. You know, this is actually the smaller of the two. The next hurdle is going to be to fix their work shift.
You're like the sheriff department, you don't get a day off.
Their trucks 24/7.
Well, let me ask you this. I talked to you, I guess, 9 months ago, and you said, y'all were working on a plan. I talked to Bobby, said y'all was working on a plan. When you get this money, and you're saying that the other night you said this would most likely be stationed out at Walker-Sasser. Now, what would that include at Walker-Sasser? Just a ambulance, or would that be a fire truck and ambulance, or either one or both, or How would that work?
So most all of our crew, I think we have 5 people that are currently right now that are what we call single certified. They're single certified paramedics. Everybody else that works for us is dual certified, can operate a fire truck or maybe.
Okay.
Happened twice this week. The other day, Monday, when I left out of here, it happened. All of our ambulances were available. I had one crew member jump in the ambulance, the other jumped in the engine, and they started coming towards us. So they bring fire apparatus to, and in the Gilchrist fire station, you would have an EMT firefighter and either a paramedic or hopefully a paramedic firefighter, that could respond with the fire truck as well,
At any time?
at any time.
Okay. So
We
that
do get
makes,
some fire coverage out of it too, and that's why the budget was split over EMS to fire, because these guys are doing, fire response as well. These new ambulances that we got,
right.
we outfitted those. We even retroed all the old stuff, it just doesn't fit. But every ambulance on the road has air pipes and, basic hand tools for firefighting in it.
Now, that crew out there would be the crew that you would have here in Trenton if you didn't have the problems here in Trenton. Or we had the new building. Let's just say we had the new building built. Would that crew be what you would have at Trenton?
They had the same thing in Trenton.
Same thing?
Yes.
But you wouldn't have Trenton and that. It would be
Yeah.
or.
Yeah,
No, with the additional money, that'd be Trenton and,
You would have,
yeah.
the
So we would have,
EOC,
yep, we'd have the EOC.
Trenton and Southeast.
I see what you're saying. So my request would be, if we do that this time, I would really like to see a 1, 2, 3-year plan to work on the other two, Spring Ridge and then 130. I think Spring Ridge would come ahead of 138.
Springwood.
But have a long drawn out plan or whatever you wanna call it. So the next year, we can look at what, if we get Walker-Sassy open, we get Trenton open, we'll get that building built, we got Bill. The people are really requesting, what about Spring Ridge?
Yeah.
And so if I tell them nothing, then
Yeah.
there's nothing. But if I say, okay, we've got a 3-year plan, and how much are you willing to pay? Because it's gonna cost, okay? How much you're willing to pay? You want me to go up on this? You want me to go, I mean, how we're gonna fund it? But if we had a plan, I can at least say, okay, 2 years from now, we hope to have that station open. 18 months from now, we hope to have that station, whatever the case may be. At least I got a plan.
We do have a plan together. It's just, and that's actually what we've been applying for the SAFER grant. I've been applying for the full plan for the SAFER grant.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to somebody much smarter than me on that, because that's been the only grant that I've been unsuccessful in getting.
And I know you told me the other day, $600,000 per station, which was $1.8 billion.
What we would look to do is the very next, if you approve this year during the budget, next year, expect me to come back and asking you for at least one more person. Because if I put one person at Station 3, I at least get that first responder. And heck, if I can get that person paramedic level certified
Mhm.
in that station, that's gonna make a world of difference. You've got that initial, that response time gets cut down, even though they can't transport you to the hospital. We can get a paramedic standing with you to assess you, perform those treatments.
Right,
It's not ideal to have one person, but we gotta start somewhere.
right.
And then I have people contacting me about, the fire station we had up on 138, that they're wanting it, to have.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
If we at least come up with a plan,
Yeah.
at least we can work towards it.
We have a plan,
Mhm.
and again, that has been, the grant that I've been applying for is to staff all of them right now, and then you'd have 3 years to figure it out. Maybe we back up tonight a little bit and say, hey, maybe next year you give us enough to staff another ambulance and fire crew at Station 3,
Mhm.
and then put one person up on 138. Well, I don't think we're near the point to have an ambulance on 138.
No,
But at least to have a warm body in the station, possibly even paramedic certified, that could make that trip up to IRB Oasis. It's still a 10-minute ride.
but as we grow, the demand's gonna grow. It grows every year. The calls increase and stuff like that. But at least we got a plan and we're looking into the future and we can tell the public, here's what our plan is. And they've got to understand, we've got to fund it now. You can have a plan all day long. I can have blueprints to a house, but if I don't have the money to build it, all I got is a set of blueprints.
What we've run up against is, as the population's increased, as we've built more homes, and as the values have went up,
Mhm.
the cost of running an EMS and fire service has went up faster.
Yep.
So we've tried to, and our regular budget, other than payroll, really hasn't changed much over the years. We do our capital purchases,
Look at the price of an ambulance, the price of a fire truck.
those just shot through the roof, but even the payroll costs have shot through the roof. Everything else is pretty much, yeah, we pay more for our medications and stuff, but since I've been here, what have we increased that, $40,000 over 8 years?
Yeah.
Most of our stuff, we're not spending a lot of other stuff, and if we are, we're getting it grant funded. So like I said, I've averaged $54,000 a year in grant funds from one source since 2017. 10 years prior, we had only collected $45,000 over 10 years. So the extra equipment and stuff that we're purchasing, we're paying 10%, sometimes 25% of the overall cost.
Right.
Last year, they waived our max, we got 25 AEDs for zero money.
Good.
Can I say the thing that we're still not really addressing? We still haven't figured out how do we pay for $600,000 for putting a new unit on this year? And we're already talking about plans for
That's
what we're
what
gonna
I
do
was
for
sitting
these.
here, I'm
for
thinking,
these
how are we
other-
gonna pay for this year, guys?
Like, let's talk about how are we gonna fund this year, because as of right now, you know, I've told you what it would take, but, you know, there has to be a commitment from the board. Are you willing to do what it takes to fund what you're talking about now?
Yeah.
Because if
And
you're not willing to fund what you're talking about now, you can't put this on general, because general can't afford this.
I thought we had it figured out.
Well,
I've made the
we-
recommendation.
we've made
I have made a
recommendations, and I think
recommendation
most of
on
us are
what it
going
takes
along
to
with
fund
it, but
300,000 for fire and 300,000 for EMS. But there has to be a commitment from the board, and I don't know that that commitment's there yet. And so I guess that's my question is, you know, we've been told it's going to cost 300 per. You know, we know that there's additional requests on top of this that hasn't even been added into what we're looking at right here today. So I think there needs to be some real thought into, can we afford to do what we need to do?
I would have just wished that, I mean, if we knew this was something we needed, we could have been, you know, planning this 3 months ago instead of just this week when we have to make a decision.
I
You know,
agree.
That would have been, you know, idea, you know,
I agree.
and that's, you know, not good planning on my part. You know, we should have been having workshops way before this, you know, because at the last meeting, y'all were wanting to make a decision, and I've just got, you know, we're wanting to increase it from 135 to 177, increase, you know, the millage. I know
Well,
our regular millage stayed the same, 8.7, but we still collected approximately 1.5 more million dollars.
So my thing is, and I'm just gonna say the uncomfortable statement. You know, the request is to go ahead and put an extra ambulance on. You could start funding, you know, Chief has said, you know, he doesn't even know that he can hire the staff within a short period of time. So you could start partially funding what's being requested. So in other words, do some slight increases in your EMS, do some slight, you know, not as drastic an increase, so that you're starting to plan towards what the chief is saying he needs. And then we start having conversations and figuring out what do we need to do, you know, to work forward towards getting this done. You know, the ambulance is already in the budget.
But not only that, how long does it take to build that ambulance, didn't you say?
No, it takes a year to build that ambulance, but yeah, like, the ambulance is in the budget for $400,000. I can deal without the truck right now. Take the 400,000 out,
So we can take that out right now.
put the 600,000 in, and now I know for a fact that October 1, I am not going to have 3 paramedic firefighters and 3 EMT firefighters with the budget. I'm not gonna have them sitting waiting ready to start on October 1. I might have a couple months. I might have to put some of these guys through training. It may take me a while to get that on. The money that we don't pay out in that payroll needs to be put forward, because eventually we will have to buy that truck.
The new ambulance is not in this budget right now.
Yes, it is.
It is, but we could take it out. And then, so if we take that out, then we're looking at $200,000.
Well, no, you're still looking at 300,000 in fire, because this is split 300 and
And
300.
this request was.
And how much
not
am
a
I,
last
300?
Request, I stood here a year ago when we talked about the MSD and EMS, we talked about the fire assessment, and said, you have to put another
Right.
ambulance on next year. Let's start making our increases.
Then we should have had workshops until the week before to make
We
the
kept
decision.
everything right then. You know, we've talked about it for a couple of years, that we've got to increase our service. We've been running the same 2 ambulances since at least the 80s. I don't know farther past the 80s. I don't know when we ever had just 1 ambulance in Gilchrist County.
James, that we have 3 ambulances running, 2 of them are new.
We
One,
want dedicated ambulances. The
Okay.
only thing we've added since as far back as I can remember is in 2008,
Six,
2006. Well, we hired them, at 6, they were 40 hours a week, and then we went up to, I think, 2007 or 2008, they went to 24/7.
okay.
Well, we added that squad truck, that could be the ambulance too. So,
Right.
yeah, you have 3 crews on.
but the third one is the one you said had 300,000 miles, roughly.
In the ambulances,
Yeah,
I'm not even talking about the trucks.
I know,
We've
but-
got some trucks to back up. and
Okay.
I've got enough trucks. I've got 2 good frontline trucks right now that if we encountered something, I've got trucks to move around.
so we can take the 400 out then.
I don't need to buy the truck right now. As soon as we know when we're gonna have the staffing, sometime probably mid-year, I'm gonna come to you and say, hey, we got the staffing set up. We need to budget for this truck, but we're not gonna pay it out till the next year. If I ordered that truck October 1, it'd probably still take another year before we pay for it. I just don't wanna wait too long, because I don't wanna get us where we were at before. Something happens and you can't get a truck.
So really, you're talking about the 6 people. Could we do less than 6 people?
Can't really, you have to have 2 people on an ambulance at all times, and it's 3 shifts.
So if we did away with the truck, then that would take care of, the 300 for EMS, but then we'd still have to have 300 for fire. So could we use the interest rate that we're making off of our fund balance to pay that $300,000 for fire?
Your interest,
Or interest that we get?
that you get is in your budget. It's budgeted revenues.
It's already budgeted revenue.
Yeah,
Your
you've already
EMS
spent,
and
you've already
fire
spent that
stuff
dollar.
And the revenue collected by EMS should hold all 3 of these. I mean, if we needed a big purchase and there was money in the general fund, there was money in the fund balance, that's the only time we should ever go there. We should build our budget to, if EMS needs this much money, that's where the MSTU, especially for salaries. You know, if we need to, help with a grant for $30,000 and the general fund would like to kick in on that, that's great. But adding $600,000 to an overall budget, is not something that we can sustain out of anybody's savings account for a long period of time. And knowing we're already talking about the following year, we want to add more to that. There's a lot of changes that need to be made in fire and EMS that we've stayed within the guidelines and we've stayed within the MSTU. We rolled it back significantly when we went to fire, but we also rolled it back to that on
You
the
mean EMS?
recommendation. We rolled the EMS MSTU back and we brought the fire assessment up. But we never did fix the commercial side. There's $70,000 that we're missing out of the commercial side of the fire assessment. And then we kept that MSTU low, even though we knew we were gonna go over it. And we knew that this year, we were gonna try to add more crews. We had the chance to gradually step up. I don't want it to go there either, because I don't want my taxes to go up anymore.
Can we start looking at that like in January? If you're gonna start planning, so we're, start,
Our planning for next year.
that's what I'm saying,
January.
let's start planning in January.
But this year, I mean, we're already too late.
So this year, we know in fire, we're gonna need $300,000. EMS is fine, if we get rid of the ambulance, we're still gonna need $300,000 in fire to fund another crew. So to take that $300,000, I mean, we raised fire 2 years ago from 80 to 135. You know, maybe if we'll meet in the middle and then take the rest out of the, fund balance, which is also taxpayers' dollars.
Okay, bearing in mind that you're already removing $314,000 from the general fund.
But we have over, what would that be? How much? Over fund balance policy do we have?
Bearing,
1.5.
bearing in mind that currently we are removing $3.5 million from your general fund balance.
Yeah.
Bearing that in mind,
I
But we
am
still have
ready to
$10
go
million
with the-
back. We still have
Mhm.
10 million though. So we're still way over our fund balance policy.
No, we're not.
Okay.
10 million, look at your policy. Your policy says I got that $8,646,027
Right.
policy. So
Yeah, but-
what you have is that less the other. You
The-
have 2 million.
But
The-
that's
the
with the
concern-
5%.
the
Last year,
concern-
we did 3% last
Okay,
year.
the concern is that you're currently removing, let me make sure I get my numbers right, because we had some adjustments. Currently, you're removing $1 million from fund balance for personnel. That's a recurring cost,
You don't take out of your fund balance for recurring costs.
you know, and if we add additional funds to that for what you're talking about, you're adding additional reduction to your fund balance for a recurring cost. You're gonna have to catch that up somehow.
I
You-
know
you have a-
nobody,
you
I
have
know
a
nobody
reducing-
wants to say it, but I'm ready to go with your recommendation of 1% and a 177.
But with EMS, we're fine. If we take out the ambulance.
But we're gonna have to have the ambulance
You're gonna-
eventually, that's what we've
next
all
year,
been
you're gonna
saying,
have
it's,
to.
it's gonna have to come anyway. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna come,
Then
whether we
can
do it
put
now or we do it then, it's gonna come.
Then we can put it in the budget next year.
Well,
I mean, I don't wanna raise up on.
If we don't start moving our MSTU, we're gonna be in the same spot next time, except instead of going.
Still lower than, still lower than the counties around us. Even at 1 and 177, we're lower than the counties around
I
us.
believe Dixie's running 2 mills on. their
Exactly,
MSTU,
they are.
2.2.
They actually,
We
the
read the paper
headline,
last week about
the
it.
headline last week was that their MSTU is 3.5. I'm assuming that's their tentative.
Well, but also too, now, when all this went down with, like I said, all the agencies around us, when COVID hit and they received that money, every agency around us grew. Dixie County runs 4 ambulances now, plus a supervisor, plus like our squad truck. So they actually essentially have 5 crews on per day, where they were only running 3 there for the longest time, just like us. Everybody kind of went up in that. They're building fire stations, just like we've got the money from the governor, the appropriations to build fire stations. Everybody's expanding because these services are getting utilized more and more and more, and it's taking us more money to provide the service. And like you've seen the rest of the budget, we haven't, equipment-wise, we haven't really went up. Our big, huge equipment items, with the exception of y'all letting me purchase some more ventilators recently, everything else, I've been able to find a grant for, and get most of that covered. The ventilators, we actually got, the price that we got on the ventilators was straight from the owner of the company. And 4 different counties have filed for grants based on the quote that we got. So that was a good move on them. Hamilton came to visit us because we've been such an advocate for tools like that in the field, where EMS agencies weren't using this kind of stuff. They were using the law spraying stuff here and there. Dixie, Levy, and Alachua County have been successful in adding to those since we did it. That's the only big ticket item other than ambulances that I haven't been able to find a grant for.
I'm leaning the way Bill is, planning for the future and getting Walker-Sassi up and running and all that kind of stuff, so I would support the 1 and the 177.
Mr. Cannon, would you like to speak real quick?
I just like one question. How much is our county, how many houses and mobile homes been moved in here from out of town people since this boom and growth has come?
1,200.
And I've heard it from 3 or 4 people, and I've asked the same question. I know it affects our local people that's lived here their whole life, but taxes affect people whole life, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But if back in the day when this road started, if you would have enacted not a $5,000, but a $1,500 impact fee.
We can't.
Why are you shaking your head no?
Because impact fees have a lot of different things that they can be spent for, but they can't be spent for just about anything you want. They have to be spent on a service that affects the ones that we're taxing. And that's why we didn't go up on a big impact fee. We went up on all our fees, because then we could use the money where we needed to, not, because there's a lot of rules and regulations on how you can spend
I'm aware of
impact fee
that.
money.
Yeah, I've dealt with that.
Yeah.
But transportation, everything you got is an impact fee. It impacts the county, whether it's an ambulance,
whether it's a cop car, whether it's a dump truck, anything. It's an impact, you know?
It
I know
is,
we
but
used to
the
get
impact
money-
fee can't always be
Let me
spent
finish,
that way.
let me finish. We used to always get extra money at the road department by impact fees. So that made a heck of a difference through the year. If you used it for impact fees, maybe it could subsidize the road department. And then people like James, the sheriff, and anybody else, you know, you'd have a little extra money. That's just, I'm just asking. I ain't demanding, I ain't saying nothing, but I'm just asking. Because a lot of people moved into our county,
They have,
and there's a lot of people moved in our county that don't pay taxes.
yeah, you're
And
right.
if you put an impact fee, by gosh, you're gonna get that money, you know, and any loan place or finance, they finance the taxes. They finance the impact fee. They'll put it in the price of their trailer, price of their house. You know, they're there to sell them see it. But when you impact, when you raise taxes, and I know it's inevitable, we're growing, but there's things you can do, like this impact fee. Can't use it for everything, but you can use it for some things, and then you say, well, road department, you know, we got $300,000 for impact fee. We got extra $300,000, bam, there's Gamma. You know, it's just my suggestion, and I know it might be different when I'm sitting up there, if I'm sitting up there, but thinking as a taxpayer and thinking of everything else.
We addressed impact fees earlier and found out there's a lot of rules and regulations on impact fees and what you can and can't do. So we elected, instead of raising the impact fee, we elected to raise the fees that are required to build a new house. Instead of calling it an impact fee, we just raise the fee that everybody pays, and then we can use those fees to pay things that we need to, not just what an impact fee says you can pay for. That's why we addressed that last, 2 years ago, year and a half ago?
An impact.
And it may be something we address again here in the near future.
It is.
There's always those times, there's stipulations for a grant.
Yeah.
You know, you can't build a swimming pool if you getting a grant for an ambulance,
Yeah.
you know? But if you could subsidize even the road department or anybody else, you know, where you could use that money, wouldn't it make sense at the end of the year that you come back and say, hey, we got this much money from impact fees?
Impact fee is a source of income.
Sir?
Impact fee is certainly a source of income.
And we're there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat here in these meetings and I've listened to, you know, where are we gonna get the money? Where are we gonna get the money? Can't best income back, where are we gonna get the money? Gotta raise taxes, I understand that. I pay taxes too. Do I wanna pay more taxes? No, but it's inevitable. You gotta pay taxes. But if you look at something like that, that's just me throwing it out there. And I ain't charging y'all nothing for my information.
Billy,
Appreciate it.
I got a
Thank you.
real quick, I appreciate your input, and we don't always agree, but I think we agree in this instance where, we ought to evaluate impact fees again. And, so I don't disagree with that, and maybe in the future, we'll be able to do that, so,
No, we've been in flux. We've been cook over, whether you wanna believe it or not. Hometown, local people, we are a minority anymore.
Yeah.
If it come down to the vote of the people that's moved in here, they ain't never one of y'all would probably be reelected. Or if I was sitting there, the same way. And sooner or later, that's gonna happen. But just something to throw out there.
All right, thank
Y'all can do it.
Chief Campbell, I have a question.
All right.
So with the ambulance that's in the budget right now, or let's just back up. If we get this additional crew, it's gonna be a while before you even get these people hired on, correct?
Well, what's probably gonna end up happening with this is, we'll definitely, we'll start posting as early as we can, but I don't see that us, we already posted for some of these positions, so I'm gonna hire a lower level and train them.
Do you have all your positions filled that you have right now? How many are you, you have filled right now?
I think I have 3 that are not filled, and I have 2 people going through the full-time process right now.
So there's 3 there right now that's not filled?
Because when I get everybody through the process of filling now, I'll still have 1 spot, and I have 8 applications on the desk.
Okay.
To go through still, but I'm still doing, reference checks and stuff like that before we go through that.
So your ambulance that you have in your budget, you have an ambulance we can use right now, correct?
We do.
Okay. So my thought,
Because again, that ambulance is not gonna hit the road on October 1,
right,
and we have enough spare trucks that we can make this work, get us through 6, 8 months, because we wouldn't, even if we ordered the ambulance in October, I don't expect to pay for it in this budget. We do need to plan for it for the next budget.
So, and the ambulance, the 400 is coming 100% out of EMS.
Correct.
Okay. So my thought would be then, I mean, we know we're gonna do it next year. Let's, plan on putting in the budget next year. We can, have workshops, not just the week of the budgeting, but, start looking and planning for this. So if we take that out, then we wouldn't have to go up on the EMS, MSTU, but then we could, look at then possibly raising the fire up some.
But the reason that we're at this position right now is next year, you're gonna buy a $400,000 ambulance and have this reoccurring cost in there. The reason we're having a hard time right now is because we didn't go up last year. We need to start gradually moving our way up to cover all those costs.
We've got.
Then what if we
we've got
go,
to
what if we
up
go
to
in the
cover
middle
our
then?
costs.
If we go up, because we already have $150,000 over what's in the fund balance for EMS, then instead of going up one, go up in the middle, which is 0.86. So that will still raise you 150, and then we can get that 150 then that we have, that's additional to the fund balance right now. That's over our fund balance policy for EMS.
And I don't think we need to get near a fund balance policy for EMS because every single year, we seem to make our way a little bit over what we projected our salaries. I mean, that's up to you where you set it, but we're also, they're looking to it, possibly if y'all add the raises in there as well too, that's gonna bring it up some. You need to start planning on moving that up considerably, not considerably, even gradually over the next couple of years to get us to a point where we shouldn't be taking money out of it. If we're taking money out of the general fund, especially for EMS, that's a ad valorem versus MSTU adjustment. Instead of doing transfers, let's plan for that to sustain our agency without having to keep going into fund balance.
General fund is still taxpayers' money though.
What would the average?
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Okay, I need to remind everybody, federal government pumps in $1.5 million in EMS's fund balance.
That's not gonna get this
For
year.
their services, and the general fund got $5.5 million. Now, that's not near.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, $7 million
That
for
we're
the
not,
entire government. And are we all ready to raise our hand and say, yeah, please give me another amount of COVID so we can?
But it's not coming back, is what
it's not coming back.
And once that money's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So.
What would the,
Benefit of that money coming in was absorbed because we could pay for, like Billy was saying, pay for something else so you can free up the money. We paid for the sheriff's office, we paid for EMS, we paid, because they designed that money to be spent on the internet. Well, guess what? It takes millions and millions of dollars to build an internet. But so we didn't have that money, or we didn't have the opportunity to use that money for the internet. So they said, okay, we've locked it down so much, go pay for your sheriff's offices and public safety so that you can get that money into your, fund balance.
We've used it to, we used it to strengthen our county. There's things that, we needed to replace buildings or vehicles or whatever,
But those,
that's right.
a one-time dollar can go for a one-time expense. A one-time dollar can't go for the next 15 years.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I think Chief Rexroad wanted to make a comment. Matt.
No, you're not chief.
Well, he wants to come up as Matt
come on up,
Rexroad.
we'll let you make a comment.
The chief.
He's a civilian
I think
today.
it's-
I want to clarify that. I'm not.
Tell us you found us some money.
Seated, and give us some money.
So,
Give us some money.
as all of you know, but for the record, my name is Matthew Rexford. I'm a lifelong resident of Gilchrist County, okay? Come before the board today because I understand that you're trying to figure out if you can or if you should fund for another full-time ambulance in Gilchrist County.
For over 20 years now, I have worked in EMS, fire, and law enforcement in and around Gilchrist County. Okay? I've worked for Gilchrist County Fire Rescue. I currently work closely with Gilchrist County Fire Rescue. Being a lifelong resident and a taxpayer, I think it gives me a unique look at what their needs and versus what their wants are. So for the last 20 plus years, I've been with these brave men and women who have been rushing to the scenes of emergencies trying to help people. But unfortunately, on March 8th of this year, me and my family were unfortunate enough to be on the other side of that. That night, I received a frantic phone call from my son that my grandson Caleb wasn't breathing and was being rushed to the hospital. Despite the best efforts of the fire rescue, the ER nurses, the ER doctors, Caleb didn't survive. And as you can imagine, in the aftermath of that, I had to explain to my son and his fiance why they had to wait 29 minutes for an ambulance. This extreme delay is no fault to the dispatchers, the EMS crew, or the fire crew. Okay? This is simply a lack of resources. And that lack of resources is because of a lack of funding. While the prior chiefs and Chief Campbell have strived to improve Gilchrist County Fire Rescue the best they can, the department is still behind where it should be. And this is solely, again, due to a lack of funding. Since I have worked and lived in Gilchrist County for so long, I have a little bit of history with EMS. And what I know is in 1989, the ambulance station just north of Bell, that sits in front of the EOC building, was built. And in 1989, Gilchrist County was staffing 2 full-time ambulances. They were known as Medic 2 and Medic 4 back then. I don't know when Gilchrist County EMS was exactly founded or exactly how many ambulances they staffed when they were founded, but I know in 1989 we had 2 full-time ambulances. 35 years ago, we had the exact same amount of full-time ambulances that we have today. That doesn't make sense. I'm aware the county's added a squad truck that, can turn into an ambulance. Their crew can get into an ambulance and run ambulance calls, but that's not a full-time ambulance, okay? It is a great resource, and it's been extremely beneficial for this county. Make no mistake about that. And I have no doubt that Chief Campbell has provided this board with several statistical data points to show how much the call volume increased and how those increases have affected his department. But one only needs to look at the growth of Gilchrist County over the last 35 years to know that this is an easy thing to find out what we need to do. In 1989, our population was just a little bit below 10,000. Today, it sits around 20,000. So in 35 years, we have doubled our population, but we still have the same amount of full-time ambulances. That's absurd. This isn't even considering the steep increase in tourism we've had, nor the increase that Jennings Springs alone has caused EMS. I must say, as a tax-paying citizen, what's there to discuss? I can't sit here and tell you today that if there was another full-time ambulance on when my grandson needed it, that the outcome would have been any different from that day. But what I can tell you for a fact is that his parents wouldn't have had to done CPR on their 6-month-old baby for 29 minutes waiting on an ambulance. For anybody that's in an emergency like that, you know that minutes seem like hours or even eternity. And if another full-time ambulance had been staffed that day, the possibility that it could have prevented another parent from having 29 eternities while they tried to breathe life into their little baby waiting on that ambulance worth whatever money you want to tax me. So no person, I know a lot of times, we as a governing agency. You want to look at something objectively, but I do not feel you can look at this objectively. You need to look at it subjectively, because every single person sitting here that pays taxes is affected by this, and nobody looking at this subjectively can make an argument against it. This is not a need, or excuse me, this is not a want. This is absolutely a need. You need to fund it like you or one of your family members' life depended on it. Because God forbid it may just one day happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, I'm ready to go with the recommendation, that was given to us by Todd. One MTU and then, 177. So y'all can discuss it more, but that's where I stand. That's where I stand.
Where's fire at right now?
Is that where you stand? What was it?
Talking about going to 177.
It's 135 right now.
Now, remember this, not trying to throw another, this is what you're setting for your tentative today.
Yeah, right.
Still have an opportunity to discuss
We
it.
can come
so-
down.
But,
Well,
but
I want to clarify something on that, though. The MSTU millage rate, you know, absolutely tentative. You could bring it down if you choose to. But I will tell you this, you know, I talked again to the property appraiser, and he indicated that on the fire, he really needed an answer so that he could get it into his system so they could make the changes on fire. So I'm going to encourage you, whatever you decide to do on fire, we need to make sure it's something that you're fairly comfortable sticking with, because whatever he puts on the trim, you know, whatever we provide him tomorrow for the trim notice, we only have like a week to make a change on that before, I'm not sure, you know, but anyway, he came into my office yesterday and
My decision
expressed that
today,
to me.
my decision today will be in concrete.
Mine will be too.
Take it to the bank.
If I'm saying 1 and 177, I don't plan on coming off that.
Me neither.
I have a question for Todd. You tried to explain it to me, but I need a little bit more clarification before the meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 14, we have that 5% additional set by the board. Like last year and the year before that, it's always been 3%.
Yes, ma'am.
If we put that back down to 3%, what would we be at then?
You'd take,
On page 14, if you're looking where it says on the left-hand side, additional set by board no greater than 20, somehow it's at 5% when we've always had that at 3%.
you would take out about $500,000. But bear in mind, all that does is it doesn't change where your fund balance is. It doesn't really change a whole lot, to be honest, based on our conversation.
Yeah, does it matter, James, you're saying it's gonna be a while before you get staff. So we're really talking, it might not be 600,000 for a year, it might be 300,000. Or, so does that matter in our factor here as far as the MSTU and the assessment? I get it, eventually we gotta have 600,000. But we're really talking about authority on paper for a budget, and really it might only be you spend 300,000 in a year.
And if that's what we end up spending, only 300,000, that'll put us in a much better position when we have to buy that $350,000-$400,000 ambulance. It'll put us in that position to be able to do that without having to hit anybody.
When y'all
else's
wanna have
budget.
that workshop about the next ambulance, we're gonna have money in there if we go up. If we don't go up, we're gonna be in the same.
Which that ambulance might be.
We're gonna be in the same.
But right now, we're-
Right now.
But right now, the ambulance is in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. where I'm at is, I'm convinced we gotta have it. How do we pay for it is the question in my mind. And I'm kind of like Sharon here, and maybe most people won't care. And if it's affecting them directly, I get it, Matthew. And if it was me, I wouldn't care. I'd want to pay. But at the same time, there are people out there that, have a hard time paying, taxes and increases. And so if I think we gotta have it, I'd lean to more, instead of going up, to the assessment and the millage, to taking some of it out of the fund balance. And I get, we can't do that forever, but then you have time to talk with people and tell them why it's important that we do what we do. And so just doing it here at the last minute, I get, we've been talking about it for a while, but still, we haven't done a good job, I think, of talking to the public about all these things we have discussed and why it's important and why it's critical. And, we even talked about, a new unit, in addition to improving your response time, would help, your current employees, because they're not taxed or overburdened in the time they have to work potentially. So we talked about with the sheriff earlier, retention of employees, that's part of it. You create an environment that they want to be here, they can handle it long-term. And so I think we gotta get there. It's just how you fund it from my perspective.
So you're saying take it out of the general fund balance also?
I'd like to see maybe a combination, yeah,
Meet in the middle, maybe?
right.
So the middle would be 155 and 0.86, and then take the other 300 out of fund balance?
Well, I mean, that can be discussed. Right now, we're talking about a tentative, setting a tentative budget level.
Right.
And, yeah, I kind of like the idea of, meet in the middle somewhere.
You have time for a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sean Tucker, county resident, and I won't tell you all the other things I am. You probably call me worse. Going back to this ambulance thing and all, and yes, that's actually in the MSTU in your fire assessment. What are the percentages increase that are gonna be over 30%, if I can do the math in my head, from what they currently are? The MSTU rate and the fire assessment rate is going up over between 30 and 50% increase. Is that correct?
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Tucker, like percentage increases, I understand it's relevant to the person that's paying it, but
Exactly.
if
There's about
you
40,000
expend,
people here.
if you expend $300,000 in order to do a service, you have to figure out how to pay for $300 in service. And in order to do that, you have to take the number of parcels that are paying it,
I fully
and
understand.
it's just simple math.
I've got several of them myself, but the thing about it is, and I'm gonna get back on your road department, 'cause it was on the agenda. You approved those 4 positions. We're,
Right,
no, listen, Bill.
No.
Where did that come from?
We're not going back on all this other, we got this on the agenda right now, this is what we're
That
discussing.
got funded
If
from
you're not
somewhere.
on this, then we're not listening to that, we
That
don't have
got
time to go through all that.
That got funded from somewhere. I'm just asking you where it got funded from.
Well, it got funded from the general fund.
Fund
And
balance,
that came from the fund balance?
yes, sir.
Well, it
Okay, there's your,
balance.
you just had your own argument about not doing recurring positions out of a fund balance. Now you tell me that you did 4 road department positions out of the fund balance?
No, that's not what we did. We did it out of the general fund, but not out of the fund
Well,
balance.
can the clerk answer?
We're not
that?
paying.
How did it get added
Go
to
ahead, go ahead, you can answer that.
Well, he's actually correct. I mean, like, he is correct. I mean, this, when we consider that we're transferring.
Well, we're transferring the money over, and I
We're
guess that is
transferring-
coming out of the fund balance, so that's right.
It is coming out of fund balance, and part of that is, when you consider the road department budget, the proposed expenditures are $3 million.
Right.
And like $1 million of that is coming from general. I mean, I think, yeah, it is valid. I mean, and that's what I was just saying, about 20 minutes ago. seems like a lifetime ago, some time ago, that, you know, we're transferring 314,000 into fire, which is in essence a recurring expense. You know, we're transferring about $1 million into road, which is a recurring expense. And now, you know, we're, you know, discussing, you know, what do we do with the rest of this expense for fire? And if you do it out of general, you know, whatever additional dollars you do, it's a recurring expense. So it's a concern.
Yeah.
It's a valid concern that we can't continue to fund recurring expenses out of your general. Also taking into account that, you know, I pray not next year, you know, I pray not the year after that, but at some point, we're gonna potentially have a pullback in values, in property values, you know, and then we potentially are looking at cutbacks.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those things have to be considered. You know, we have to look towards the future and how are we going to not only pay for next year's budget, but how are we going to pay for future budgets? How are we going to continue to pay our staffs? You know, how are we going to continue to pay for capital expenditures?
And we can't do it out of fund balance.
We can't continually pull from our fund balance, or eventually we're going to be borrowing money.
Our
I'd say as a taxpayer, I'd much rather pay for another ambulance and staff for that than I have for 4 more flunkies for the road department for what good they would do.
Mr. Tucker, don't call them flunkies now. That's very impolite. You don't even know these people and you're putting them in a category. That is very disrespectful of you.
Yes.
Well, no, they're not flunkies. They're people just like you. You know, we've probably all been referred to, but what I'm saying is don't degrade anyone. I don't care who they work for or what they are. That is a very, very unprofessional view, okay? Let me just tell you. But you can say what you want. And you're right, I know a little history. Okay? But I'm not gonna sit here and make the comments that you make that are very rude to call. No, we don't want your apology. Yo, I need to go. I need to go, and, you know, I'm only here for 34 days. I will say this. Hush. We can.
We're gonna ask to have you leave if you can't be a little bit more
We
respectful,
can-
because we're not doing this anymore.
Because you called somebody, I'm done. Because you called somebody a flunky, and that's not right.
I know it's not right. You're correct.
You want to refer to these people, but what I want to say is, and
Can you speak in the
if y'all
microphone?
never, if y'all never want me to be back in this room again, I'll be happy not to be back in here again. We either got to figure out a way to fund these where we can fund them and provide the services, or simply say we're not going to provide the services. So when we can't get to someone, I was fortunate tonight that the incident that happened to my wife that could have took her life, that everybody was available. Matt wasn't. And like Matt said, that may have not have changed the outcome. And you know, my heart broke for him because I got grandkids. The day I heard that, I wanted to cry for him. Yeah. You know, but it may not have changed it. But the other thing is, when we get calls and you want these roads taken care of, we gotta have people to do that too, or either we gotta tell them we can't get out there to do it. You know, if we don't want another ambulance because we can't afford it, just don't put one on. If we don't want to put people in the road department, but don't tell them we can be out there tomorrow to do work. Okay? When we got all these people calling, we got animal control. We don't put it there, then we can't do those services. And I understand that we can't overburden people with taxes. But when you're talking about a percentage in the MSTU or ad valorem, the people that you're hitting the hardest are the ones who just moved here and got a $350,000 or $400,000 home, or they bought a $350,000 or $400,000 home. If they couldn't pay another $100 in taxes, they shouldn't have bought that house.
That's true.
The ones that's been here for 20 years, living in the same home, are gonna get maybe a $10 or $15, $20 increase when another person's gonna get $150 that just moved here.
And it's gonna be
We're
the
worried
people.
about the people, and I agree with the impact fees and different things, that we should have been maybe a little better ahead of that curve. We made a change. It did bring us in some more money to help us. But the people that we're gonna, when you do MSTUs and you do that, The people you hurt the worst are the people who are creating the issue, the 1,200 new homes. If you didn't have them, you wouldn't be having this discussion today. And I apologize, I'm getting too passionate about this, and I love this county, I love this job. I've gave me 13 years of my life. And I've sat here very calmly. And that's one of the reasons I'm quitting, because I'm getting to the point I can't sit calmly anymore.
All right.
So,
Thank
thank
you
you all
very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So,
All right, again, I'm ready to stay with 1 and 177.
so what about if we did, okay, never mind.
Well, the thing about it is.
Yeah, I mean,
if
and
you
we're
wanna-
still just setting the limit now. We're not setting the exact thing, we're setting the limit. But I'm gonna tell
Well,
you, I'm
the-
pretty close on that as my limit too.
The fire needs to stay the same. So what if we did the MSTU, because it does affect, like Mr. Crosby said, the people, the new people. So set the MSTU, because people that are homesteaded, they have the state, you know, it only can go up, what, 3%, I think?
Right.
Am I correct?
Right.
Okay, so what if we set the MSTU at 1%? With the fire, we go in the middle, which would be 155, and then we take the other $150,000 out of our general fund balance. Or, I mean, yeah, you could take the other $150,000 out of the general fund balance.
I'm not.
Because I
I'm not
agree,
gonna take anything out of
100
the fund balance.
Well, we already have like 1.5 million over, and that's even with the 5%. I agree 100% I agree 100% we need a new ambulance. And so,
We
you
need
know,
one, then we need to start getting a way to fund it, not have a workshop and then decide that's how we're gonna fund it. Let's just go ahead and get it started. Like you're saying, most of the people that live here are gonna have a very, very small increase. It's the new people that are gonna be hit the most.
right,
and-
everybody's gonna be hit on the, that's why I'm saying the fire, let's go up instead of 177. Let's go to 155 in the middle, because $40 is a lot for an elderly person. And they're gonna be, with the MSTU, with Save Your Homes, I mean, that's not gonna be a big increase for those people. And then the other $150,000 for this year, we can take it out of our fund balance, which we're way over, and I understand there's Spring Ridge we have to worry about and all that. But then next year, come January, we need to start planning for a 3 and 5 year plan. That's just my thoughts.
You wanna make a motion?
We're not in the meeting.
Oh, we can't make a motion. Okay.
Yeah, we gotta go to the, we're just in a workshop now, so.
Yeah, that's right. What we could do if there's a disagreement about how you wanna fund that thing is, now that you've covered those issues, you can adjourn this meeting and go into your regular meeting, and there can be a motion made, seconded, and either passed or not passed as to the propositions that y'all come up with.
So, I got,
Kendrick has a question for you.
Is, raises and everything been figured in this budget yet?
no, sir.
And how much are we looking at that from y'all's departments, the road department?
I mean, I have what, Mr. Crosby provided on Monday, and those numbers were around 170 to general. The sheriff's request, you know, which was just presented, depending on what you guys decide, is a minimum of,
I think we kind of agreed on taking out that one position and taking out.
so if you choose to go with the lower amount, that's another $385,000. You've got the other, depends on how you want to handle road. I mean, we could allow fund balance and road to cover the raise there. I think that was another,
But we still haven't asked the other constitutional officers,
correct.
Michael hadn't, mentioned no raises, or Connie hasn't mentioned no raises.
That's correct.
Mentioned no raises. So all that, I think we got bigger fish to fry,
That-
to try to make all this work, because we got so much requests and X number of dollars, and
Correct.
we still got a long ways to go.
And most of that's coming out of fund balance, right?
That's right.
That's correct. Well, at this point, I mean, anything you add, we're already removing $3.5 million before anything that happened today. So anything you add is just tacking on to that. So, you know, it's not a question of balancing this budget. It's a question of how much further are we going in the hole.
All right. we got a motion to adjourn this, we'll adjourn and go back into our, budget, where we vote on the budget.
Yeah, our special meeting that was.
A special meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Yep. Okay, we're gonna adjourn, we'll take a 5-minute break, we'll come back and work on this Back to, call the meeting to order. This is the, special meeting following the budget workshop. We've already done the prayer and the flag. On the other, are there any agenda changes?
We is good, ain't so we don't need to pray again.
Nope. Well, we should pray again, shouldn't we?
Nah,
All
we good.
right, public participation. Anybody wish to address the board? Yes, sir.
Matthew Harrell, taking off my journalist cap and taking on my business owner cap. If I can make a comment on Mr. Langford's comments about, changing where you advertise, whether it be in a newspaper or in a website.
Who made that comment? Oh,
Mr. Langford.
Mr.
I said
Langford,
Mr. State statute 50.0311, paragraph 3 says that you have to, you can only do a website if it's less expensive than printing in a newspaper. And you're gonna look at me and you're gonna say, Matt, it's free to put it on our website. We're already on the website. But Sunshine Law, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lang. Sunshine Law says that anything you put on your website is a public record and you gotta keep it there. Am I correct in saying that?
Say that one more time, Matthew.
Anything that you put on your website is a public record and it's
That's
gotta stay there.
That's
Right?
great.
Okay, so you gotta pay for more memory. And we're already not putting we're not putting the videos on the website for the memory, right? Mr. Newton, okay? So if we don't have enough memory to put a website or put a video on the website, how are we going to put our public notices and legal advertisements on the website? Memory's a lot. I have a website. I know how much memory costs. You gotta be able to prove that it's less expensive, and it's probably not. But more importantly, do you want to operate in the sunlight where everybody can see, or do you want to operate in the dark? I'm not saying that you're doing this for devious reasons. I understand wanting to save money. I don't have anything against saving money. But I want you to think about how many people in this in this county cannot navigate a website. I can think of one that I gotta go visit his house after this to help him get through Amazon, okay?
I believe there's some more to that statute as well, Matthew, that, so many people in the community have to be served by the internet for that to be allowed.
Right, that's also part of it.
But
But-
Matthew, you're making the case to use, the newspaper. I'd support
I do too.
that as well.
I support the newspaper.
And to be clear, I'm not the one getting the ads yet, okay, but I've worked my butt off to get to the numbers that I'm supposed to be at, to do that. And I'm about to pay $1,280 to do an audit. I'd like to get that money back. I'd like to be able to move out of my parents' house. I'm 29 years old. I want to live on my own again, okay? I miss it. All right? I'm thankful that they let me do this so I can start this paper. I've enjoyed doing it so far. Sounds like everybody enjoys it. I'm sure somebody doesn't like it, but I'm doing as good as I can for one person. But I'm just want to put that out there that this needs to go in a newspaper, not just go hide on a website.
Well, like you said, I know people who have internet, but they don't know how to navigate, you know, to try to find something, older people especially.
That'll take a lot of debate before they go straight to any kind of internet publication, that sort of thing. So your point's taken, and, before that could happen, they'd have to, make a determination. You'd have an alternative, come back up here and speak again.
But I understand that. I just wanted to get that on the record.
All right.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Matthew, appreciate it. Appreciate what you do. Any other public participation?
I apologize, I got that hand while ago there, but I didn't mean it personally, it was just of that one adjective that I used. I would like to say that there's been a lot of frustrated people, employees, residents, and all about a lot of things that are going on, and sometimes we get passionate about it. And we don't love each other, love the county. But, I'd like to make a public record request about, and I know you don't wanna hear these two words, Bill, but you know what they are. Organizational chart for the road department employees and their duties and responsibilities. One commissioner sitting there told me that the superintendent had resigned because of family and personal issues. Since it's been brought to my attention that he is still employed by the county. I mean, just trying to find an answer is getting very frustrating on some of these things. I've also made some public record requests on some other, departments. got to run around for the state FDAX, they want to charge me between $3,000 and $5,000 to provide me emails. And our HR lady here, she was just up front, sent me everything that I wanted from the county. But the Soil and Water Conservation District administrator has failed to respond to any of my requests for the soil and water emails. I just found out a letter that I was not even aware of was written 2 years ago that was supposed to be forwarded to me, and I never got it. It was never forwarded or anything. And other than that, that's kind of what, I'm just kind of fed up and frustrated. It's nothing personal about me. It's about the county in general and how some of the lack of doing business properly has been done. And one last thing, Mr. Lang, our attorney there, he mentioned all the money that them lawyers in them big counties is making. You got a list of everybody in the state, I suppose, in front of us. So you got this-
I got what was put on the Florida Association of Counties website.
What about Union, Taylor, Dixie, the ones that are more or less within our, population, and would you mind sharing those? with us?
I don't have those.
You don't have them, they're more.
They're not on the list. They're not on the list, Scott. The Scott was produced. No, I do not have them personally. I have Levy, and that was the closest one to us. 171,000.
All right. Any other public participation? All right. Let's move into setting the MSTU millage rate for trim. We've heard a lot of different things. My opinion is that, Mr. Newton is much, much, much smarter than I am on figuring budgets and knowing what kind of money we need to run this budget and to run the requests that have come through. And I understand we've got money in the fund balance, but I know we've got a lot of things coming up that we're unsure of. We've got the subdivision at Spring Ridge that we don't know what it's gonna cost us. We've got this new budget that the sheriff sent us that's gonna cost us another $250,000. We've got all these different things that we're unsure of, and we're still talking about taking money out of fund balance. We may not have that fund balance. What we set today is not set in stone, even though what I'm thinking is very much along the lines of what I am suggesting. I will have to take a motion from the floor on what you want to do, but you know where I stand. What do you want to
Commissioner
say?
Smith,
If
you want-
Mr. Newton has put a lot of thought into this, and like I said, if he thinks this is what we need, to at least start off, that's where I think we need to start out of it, but I'll.
I think Commissioner Smith wants.
Which one do you want to start on?
I think Commissioner
let's-
Smith wants.
Can I, just real quick, so I think all of our goals is to keep taxes down. And, that's what we worked on the last 3 years, at least, since I've been involved. We also have heard we are having changes, population, which results in increased demand on services. And so the balance of the services versus how you pay for it is really the challenge for all of us. And, that's the reason we're having these discussions and don't always agree. But looking at the, proposed increases for the MSTU and the assessment, that they gave us some numbers the other day. And so on average, this is just $125,000 property. I know it could vary quite a bit, but to just give you a standard at, an increase to 1, it's basically $25 increase. If you look at the, general millage, it would be an increase of $32 if we keep it at 8.7. If we add to that the assessment increase, $42, I think, you're basically talking $99 increase for $125,000 property. So, just information related to, I might be willing to pay that because I know how important having an extra ambulance unit or the sheriff's support coming to help protect me and my family. But there are people out there that struggle with that, and I understand we have a way to, if they if they meet a certain, economic threshold, they get some exemption from that. There are some people that totally don't, because of homestead and other deductions, maybe are not paying a lot of taxes. But still, I think that's something we all struggle with is, you know, I get it. We gotta have these additional services, but I'm struggling with, how much can folks that can't handle it, increase in their taxes. And so I'm just kind of thinking out loud, that's kind of dangerous, but that's the way I'm thinking. And so that's why I support not taking it all out of increasing taxes. And I get, we can't continually take out of our fund balance. It's just not sustainable. And you just gotta sooner or later figure out another way. But at least in this instance, I'd like to take a little bit out of fund balance to cover some of these things.
So are you thinking then do the 1 mil for MSTU and then like for fire, do the 155 instead of 177, then take the other 150 out of fund balance?
I would support that.
I'll make a motion that we do the fire at 177, which was recommended by the clerk, and the other one that.
I think we need to do them separate.
Well, we'll do the fire first. Which one is it? 177, Don?
We have a motion for the fire special assistant be set at 177. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
All right.
Okay.
If we go to 155, is that just a Band-Aid this year or is it for the future too?
Well, if you go to 155, about $150,000 of the increase is coming from general.
Well, is that a Band-Aid or is that a fix?
It's definitely a Band-Aid. You're not providing enough revenue to cover the increase.
If we go to 177, that'll cover fire, that'll cover EMS. It's about $22. So if I went down to the restaurant tonight and ordered me a meal, that's about what I would expect to pay, whatever I pay for that meal.
Correct.
For a whole year.
Yes, if you go to the 177, it covers the $300,000 increase that was requested.
Without taking anything out of fund balance.
Correct.
That's what I'm in favor of.
All right, we have a motion and a second to set fire at 177. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it passes 3-2. All right, let's look at the MSTU, millage rate for, set at trim. Again, this is not the final. This is our ceiling and.
For Damon to advertise.
And for Damon to advertise, but again, I'm real close to one myself. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Well, if we go to 1, we're going from 0.73 to 1, so we're going up 23% or 23.23. I'm like Matt, if Chief Campbell has already told us that by putting an ambulance out there at Walker-Sasser, he's increased the response time. And when you got a life on the line, response time is seconds. It ain't minutes, it ain't hours, it's seconds. That's how important it is. So if we can do 1 mil, that's not a whole lot. If we do it, we can go ahead and be proactive. If we got more money than we need next year, we'll look at Spring Ridge or we'll look at some other things that we're gonna have to fund next year. But we've got to move forward to take care of our people and give them the services that they're demanding. Do I wanna go up tax? Absolutely not. But how do we provide the services if we don't?
And I'm okay with the 1 mil, Commissioner Langford, because, as Mr. Crosby explained, that's gonna hit hard these new buildings, the people who are homesteaded, theirs will not increase more than 3%.
Correct.
Is that a motion?
I can,
That's
I'll,
the
I got a
I'll second
motion
it,
to, set the MSTU millage rate
and I'll second it.
at 1 mil. And we got a second come from motion by Commissioner Langford and a second by Commissioner Langford. All those in favor of setting the MSTU at 1 mil signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Right, motion passes.
Yeah, and for the minutes, the motion was by Tommy Langford, second by Sharon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other thing else we need to cover?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We gotta set our millage rate, don't we?
So.
No, we already did that.
At 8.7?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the general millage was set at 8.7 on Monday. We do have a workshop set for 4 o'clock on Monday.
4 o'clock Monday?
4 o'clock on Monday, and I do need some general direction from the board. You know, we'll be working to put together some of the changes that have occurred. Some clarification, though. Are we removing the ambulance from EMS?
I thought that was in there.
Well, it's currently in there. I'm needing to know direction, like.
We're gonna have the money because we budgeted it, so we
Okay.
just said it.
So
So it's
I was
gonna be in
thinking
there.
that we were gonna
I
start
didn't-
working on trying to get money
Yeah, we're
for
gonna
it.
get it.
Okay,
Whether we
so,
get it or not, put it in the
Right.
budget this year.
Chief Campbell,
Okay,
we
so
need it in there.
Can't fire, we'll leave it in there, I can say that we won't expend it, but it's good to, in 6 months, if we come through and I say, hey, we're getting our staff together, we're gonna have it ready by this time, can we go ahead and do the bid process, purchase one, and it's already in the budget, we already sent the PO for it. If I order it on October 1, it will probably still come out on next budget year, but if you'll leave it in there, we won't expend it.
And when we do decide to have a workshop and discuss it a little bit more, we'll have some money now available to do it instead of start scrambling, wondering where we're gonna get it.
Yeah, depending on
So
how.
I would go ahead and put it in there.
At the end of that, to say, hey, we can purchase that outright, not have to, we can stay out of, we did our fund balance, I know the EMS and fire fund balance staff. So, and I really don't want to grab any more of the general fund. We could have, I think we'll be in a good position, this time next year to be able to have that new truck on there and have our staff already trained up and ready to go on.
That'll be good to have 3 ambulances full-time.
Well, that's gonna make a huge difference.
Cause I know our employees right now are probably, they are stretched very thin. And work so many overtime, so many hours overtime, and
Well, and
maybe
what
they can get their life back after we get the 3rd ambulance.
we're gonna have to, the bigger part of this is eventually we're gonna talk about shit, there's gonna be a lot of fire service, service, and shit work. Like, that just, turn the 4 shift, do that large or small. Lost the gains of fire risk, but they did it high. They have extra positions every day, they might have 10 extra people on today. Just to cover vacation and overtime, because it's cheaper to budget it that way than just pay it down. Departments, 30-40% of the budget. So we'll discuss that later on, that's definitely something for a workshop, but what I told him is, when you have, right now you have 3 crews on per day, so that's 6 people on, and that's 18 total people to share the assignment. If we add 2 more, and that's 20 total people to share assignment. Anyway, you have more people to pull from, and you have to fill those positions. When we have mandates, you have a bigger pool to come through, so you're not getting mandated twice in a month.
Yeah, that sheet you gave us, I mean, I don't have it right in front of me, but how many transports y'all did, just in 1 year? I mean, that is,
And they're, I mean,
Ooh, a lot.
they're easing up a lot of the stuff. One of the things that when I bring that trailer back, and I wanna bring everything back and get you some good stuff, but one of the things of that too is when we bring that out to special events, we bring that out to not just, but quilt festival, barbecue at the heart. The goal for that, there's a treatment area inside of it. If I can take the guys that we've got on scene and treat you there, we don't have to haul you to the hospital. And that's what gets us, we can treat people on the scene all day long, but as soon as we start hauling them to the hospital, that truck's gone for an hour.
You can't, it's like Matt says, you can't serve 20,000 residents with 2 ambulances.
no.
I mean, you was using 2 ambulances for 10,000, and now we expect you to do 2 ambulances and cover 20,000? And plus the 2 nursing homes that we have now, Tri-County and Aaron, you just can't do it.
And the kidney dialysis.
Kidney dialysis center, 2 nursing homes, and both the Palms Medical. It's not that they're doing anything wrong, that's just a concentration of 6 people, and they're right there. We ain't even talked about the prison yet.
I know, yeah.
That's a whole nother.
Those are calls that we are gonna get every single day. We're gonna go to one of those facilities or all of those facilities every single day.
I think the board can justify what we did, simply for the fact of the amount of services that we're having to provide.
Yes, we greatly appreciate it, and I know the crew will be excited to know they're gonna get some help.
Todd, I would like for you to, prepare us some type of something to look at how these requests are gonna affect our budget, or how we are gonna try to fund them or budget them, whatever. But then I'd also like to look at, the sheriff he kinda offered us two proposals. One was 1.3 and one was 1 million. I mean, you know, maybe if I did this and I did this, the scenario.
Well,
In other words,
if you do one,
take
if you
the
do one,
chocolate
it
off
adds
the top of the
$385,000 to your budget.
Do what?
If you do one, it adds $385,000 to your budget. If you do the other, it adds another, 320
It's gonna
on
come
top
out of
of
fund
that.
balance.
So, I mean, that's your numbers. I mean, it's just a matter of, you know, what level, do you feel like we're able to fund? And that was actually what I was trying to get right now was direction.
Yeah.
Like, I need direction on, so we know what we're talking about on Monday.
Right.
What level are we looking at with the sheriff?
Give us something to look at.
Okay.
You
That-
gonna bring it back with raises in it and everything?
We hadn't even talked about raising it.
The sheriff's raises, we know what that's gonna be.
Yeah.
We know what ours is gonna be.
Can you ask the other constitutional
That-
officers if
that's
they
the
have any
plan.
proposal?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're happy where they're at, we're tickled to death too, but we should at least make an offer to them.
Yeah, well, I think I think it's prudent too. I mean, if we don't offer,
And I'm
raises
including
for
you
that,
when I say that.
and I appreciate that.
So Todd, so last 3 years, we've increased salaries by $4 an hour. Can you give us some scenarios like $1 an hour, $2 an hour across the board like we've been doing? And then we can also look at what is being proposed now and compare it. And it might be that what's being proposed is less than what we've been doing, actually.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I just think we need to get people up to where they need to be. Just like the sheriff talked, he's getting his people up where they need to be. I think that's what we are gonna try to do on our side, is get these people up where they'll come to us and they'll stay with us and they won't leave. And I think that's the whole reason why the sheriff did what he did, and that's the whole reason why we hopefully are going to do what we did.
Yeah, if we don't take care of our employees, then we're gonna, just like he had just discussed earlier, you're gonna lose people, you're gonna have turnover. It costs where you can't even see it costing. And,
Well,
I think
what
you
we
just
do
gotta-
is we become a training ground. I worked
Yeah.
for White Construction, and Mr. White was always pay them as little as you can pay them, and what would happen, people would come on, he'd spend all this time training them and getting them ready to run equipment, get them where they could run a pan, get them where they could run this, and as soon as they could run it, they'd go to another company and make $3, $4, $5 an hour more, and he'd lose them, and guess what he'd do? Bring another guy at minimum wage and train them. And he was a training ground for all the other construction companies. And we don't wanna be a training ground for the rest of the state to train people and then have them go somewhere else because they can make us a couple dollars an hour more. So we need to try to keep a way to keep them here. I agree.
And these guys, I mean, I don't want their job. They put their life on the line. Every time they go on a call or every time they patrol, they're subject to lose their life. And it's an honorable job, if you ask me.
Yep.
All right. Anything else we need to cover? Is that it for you?
If that's it for you guys,
4 o'clock Monday.
4 o'clock Monday?
4 o'clock Monday.
You got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
second.